about issues they care about.
Everybody's got to know that drunks are Americans, and we love America! And we want to make it awesome! Oh my God, let's do this! Let's be a senator! I love you guys!
Tillis' total fearlessness and lack of inhibition seemed to speak to voters. This week, those supporters had something to celebrate as Senator Tillis proposed his first piece of legislation, the All Bus Stops Should Have Shelters bill.
But does that mean you deserve to wake up in the snow? Hell no. Let's make a shelter on all bus stops. Ow! This idea is genius!
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Riley.
And Nikki.
And we have some really interesting news to talk about tonight. The president of Argentina, Javier Milei, everybody is always criticizing him for being a World Economic Forum member, and it's not a bad criticism. I don't blame them. And I continue to be skeptical that Javier Milei is not maybe some kind of a fall guy on purpose. But I don't want to be negative. It's just that I've never had a reason to be positive about a politician. So
yeah, honestly.
I don't think any of us have. I mean, we've seen politicians lie to us before, so
yeah.
What's another one going to lie to us about?
But so he's a World Economic Forum member, and people have often pointed that out, like, oh my gosh, that's a really bad thing, because those are really bad people for the most part. They're the people that came out with the idea of you will have nothing and you'll be happy. Their 2030 agenda.
Yep, eating bugs.
Yeah, generally the World Economic Forum types are these global elitists that want to fly around their private jets and tell you, hey, you got to reduce your carbon footprint while they fly around their private jets.
Yep, those exact types, and 15-minute city types, those types of people that just want you to rent everything from the government in the future and own nothing. But Javier Milei, right before going in to speak, there was somebody in Spanish asking him, so what's your game plan for today? And he was like, I'm going to confront these people about their 2030 agenda.
I'm surprised they invited him.
Well, he's a member. So maybe they just didn't know how radical he was, and he became president, and now he's like letting loose.
Oh, maybe.
And I listened to the whole speech today, and there was nothing to criticize. It was really good.
Yeah.
It's like at this point, it's just words, but really good words. And I'm not saying that it will necessarily change the people, the World Economic Forum people's minds or something, but it's great that this is getting out there on such a big platform. These really
of course.
good ideas.
I mean, you got to start somewhere, and if he's spouting the ideas of liberty on a public platform like with the World Economic Forum, then someone's going to listen.
He's also been doing a lot of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he slashed, I don't even remember how many.
Like 9 out of 21 departments
and that's,
in government.
That's rare that any politician will kind of keep to their campaign promises and really do anything at all. And also, I think a lot of, like, I obviously know more about U.S. politics, so I guess I'll use that as an example. But it's not always so easy for a president to go into office and make these huge changes, because there's Congress and Senate, and then there's other like checks and balances that can kind of, ruin any chances that they have to make things better. And that's why things just stay stagnant and take a really long time for us to see any change.
Or they never actually wanted to do any of those
or
things.
they're liars.
They just say, oh, I can't because of Congress. Like Trump had a Republican Congress when he got elected, and he just didn't do anything. But you're right. This guy, he's actually doing things. He's gotten rid of 9 out of 21 government departments. And then he's fired thousands of government workers.
Yeah.
And he is serious about what he's saying. And part of what he is saying is that there's a parasite class. They want us to be socialists. And the large majority of the people in each country that does that will suffer. And that's what he's talking about in this speech.
Just really quickly, I want to touch on something that you just said about him firing thousands of government workers. That might sound mean to some people, especially like socialist, communist types or statist type people. But you have to realize Argentina, the economy was in dire straits.
Oh, yeah.
They could not afford to be paying these people
to be unproductive.
Exactly. And
parasites.
I'm sure most of their jobs, they weren't really doing anything to contribute to anyone else. It was just like wasted tax dollars like we see here in the United States.
Yes.
So it might sound like, you're firing people? That's so mean. Sometimes people need to be fired and they need to get a different job where they're more productive and they're actually providing value and not just getting paid off of stolen money.
Well, I think as libertarians, we look at government as the parasite class because they exist. They exist based on theft of the people's money and mismanagement of people's money. But yet Javier Milei is like, I understand that this is the people's money that I'm being paid with, so I want to make sure that they're getting a good bang for their buck, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know?
He certainly is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
One thing I haven't completely gotten a full understanding of, but somebody that is really following it and speaks Spanish that I know has told me about is that he has a 1-year plan to get rid of their central bank.
Cool.
Oh, interesting.
Well, let's see it.
So I'm going to go into this article that Nikki brought just to explain to the people like what he was doing there. It says, Argentina's libertarian president Javier Milei has accused Western leaders of abandoning the values of the West in a high-profile address to the World Economic Forum, where his debut on the world stage met with warm applause. And when I was watching it, every time it showed them, they looked kind of uninterested and silent. I kind of didn't think it was... Like, maybe he just walked up on stage and they politely applauded, but I didn't think, like, oh, they love him.
There was something that Matt pointed out when we watched it together, who's my husband and sometimes co-host of this show, that some of the people in the front row, or like some of the people in the audience that you could see had these like smug looks on their face, like, oh, haha, he's so cute, like, sure, when he, after he gave his speech, where he was essentially like, I mean, you'll get into it, but talking about how them being parasites and how there needs to be a complete, like, everything they stand for is a bad idea, essentially. Yeah. But they just had these like weird robotic smug looks on their faces.
Yeah, I never saw them. I saw a lot like not even looking up. Anyways, I guess maybe they applauded when he walked on stage. Maybe. I mean, I guess so. That's what the article says. He said, I'm here to tell you that the Western world is in danger because those who are supposed to defend the values of the West have been co-opted by a vision of the world that inexorably leads to socialism and therefore to poverty. Milei told an audience in Davos on Wednesday. He said international organizations have been influenced by collectivism, radical feminism, and a cruel environmental agenda. I didn't even notice the radical feminism part. It's just like, I don't know, just stick to your economic points. I don't know. It's not like
I didn't hear him say anything about radical feminism in his in the translated video that I watched.
Me either, and I watched the whole.
But of course, like,
thing.
I can't speak Spanish, so I don't know for certain which version of his words, his English translated words are true. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I wonder
that's
if
true.
the person writing this article is. I wonder what their biases are.
Exactly. I mean, most media's biases are towards, government and parasitic
collectivist ideologies like socialism. Yep. I mean, socialism, for listeners who are unfamiliar, socialism is this collectivist ideology where the community owns everything and you don't own your personal property anymore. You don't get a house. You don't get cars. It's owned by the community. So this is why I would oppose socialism, is that I don't want to have my stuff owned by a community.
Well, it's not really owned by the community, right? It's kind of owned by the the people in power, the ruling
of course
class,
it is.
you know?
But the people in power are giving you this illusion, it's the community that owns everything. We're going to do democratic socialism and choose who our leaders are going to be and choose how we how we distribute things. No, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I can't do a control F on this, where I Google translated it all from a translation, or not a translation, from a transcript of it in Spanish. So I have the whole thing here, Google translated into English. Just looking through it, I don't see the word feminist at all. That doesn't mean it's not there, because I can't do control F and actually search through it right now from where it's on my page. But I almost feel like they just made that up. I don't know. I listened to the whole thing today. Maybe there was. It
just sounds irrelevant, right? Like, why?
Right.
What did feminism have to? I'm not a fan of modern woke feminism.
Neither.
To me, radical feminism is a different thing. To me, radical feminism is the opposite of the modern woke feminism. It's more like going back to traditional women, whatever. I just don't get what that has to do with economics, honestly.
Yeah, I just think women should do
I don't know, just do whatever you want,
whatever
who cares?
they want, and this idea that women doing blah 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 has ruined our country, when we have you have hundreds of thousands of government workers to fire. That probably has more to do with it. Anyways, but I don't really know if he said that or not, and I don't see it here. I've now went up and down 3 times. Anyways. So, and I am going to post that somewhere. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to be able to post my little Google translated version of the whole thing. It was 9 pages. So,
wow.
That's a massive document.
Right. I want to be able to post it somewhere, because it was I think 25 minutes of the whole uncut video. So it says that he said, international organizations have been influenced by collectivism, radical feminism, and a cruel environmental agenda. Milei, a self-described anarcho-capitalist and former television pundit, was elected on anti-establishment platforms an anti-establishment platform in November amid the troubled South American economy's worst crisis in 2 decades. The head of a large European buyout firm came out of the Congress Hall impressed by Milei's speech. Ahead of the speech, Daniel Pinto, JP Morgan president and chief operating officer, said Argentina's new government may be creating a new beginning for the country, bringing an end to 80 years of economic deterioration. He warned of a tough year ahead, however, as Milei's plans require the population to be willing to go through the pain of austerity. So, what he's doing, his whole 1-year plan, he has to he's pumping money into the economy while especially the welfare programs, and that might sound, that doesn't sound very libertarian, but it's because he's giving them a cushion as he basically makes the dollar die. So, or not the dollar, the Argentine peso.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So he's kind of, I don't exactly know how to explain it, but he's kind of forcing the Argentine dollar's death faster and cushioning the poorest of the poor with welfare. And then in a year from now, it should be all better, because they should be dollarized and their central bank gone if the IMF doesn't give them too hard of a time. So Milei's economic policies have also won initial support from the IMF, whose technical staff approved a disbursement of funds to Argentina last week, and whose deputy managing director, Gita Gopinath, told the Financial Times the new administration had moved boldly to correct several of the misalignments that are there in the economy. Milei's Davos appearance, for his first overseas trip as president, was his first chance to pitch his ultra-liberal vision to the global elite following his shock election victory. Milei on Wednesday said the case of Argentina is an empirical demonstration that no matter how rich you may be or how much you may have in terms of natural resource, if measures are adopted that hinder the free function of markets, the only possible fate is poverty. It's so true, because Argentina is a lush, beautiful, green place with oil and other things to mine and farm and, they've got their little coast to go around. I feel like they have a lot of stuff. They have no reason to be impoverished like they are.
Argentina sounds like a very resource-rich place, and when it's poverty-stricken because it's so poor, that just goes to show you that it's a corrupt government running things rather than a healthy government, or a government with checks and balances, or a government that governs by empowering the people to succeed.
Yeah, and to his point, they're hindering the function of free markets.
Right.
Yeah.
And if people don't know what that means, socialism is when your markets are controlled. Oh, this company is making too much money. We got to take some from them. Oh, you can't start this business because we already have one. Things like that. The government decides instead of the market deciding. And the government chooses who wins and loses. Like if a company is about to go out of business, the government will front them some money, which costs the taxpayers. Just things like that, the 2008 crisis.
The bailouts that happened with the banks in the 2008 crisis.
In America.
Oh, yeah. And the stimulus plans that went through in 2020 when Trump signed all those checks.
Yep.
Creating more inflation and, making the rich people richer and the poor people poorer.
Right. Exactly. So since taking office in December, the Libertarian economist has moved rapidly to slash Argentina's fiscal deficit and deregulate the economy. The IMF delivered a vote of confidence in Milei's plans last week as its technical staff approved a $4.7 billion disbursement of the country's $43 billion loan program, enabling it to pay the fund back for earlier lending. Argentina is its largest debtor, so they have a bunch of debt with the IMF. I guess they asked for some of it. I just don't know what a disbursement is. I wish we had Peakless Mountaineer on the show. He would be able to explain that. The decision is pending approval by the IMF's board. Milei met IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, whoa, what a name, on Wednesday after his speech. Gopinath cited Milei's 54% devaluation in the official exchange rate in December as one of his administration's bold moves. She said a strong fiscal anchor was an important condition for an improvement. And that was what this administration did, which previous administrations were not able to do. The IMF held tense, drawn-out talks last year with Argentina's previous left-leaning Peronist government, which is like they're Democrats, I think. I mean, it's their left-leaning party. That's all I know.
Okay.
Peronists. And I'm probably saying it wrong. Which printed billions of pesos to fund pre-election cash handouts and publicly blamed the IMF for an unpopular currency devaluation in August. Argentina and the fund last week unveiled a target for the country to reach a fiscal surplus of 2% of gross domestic product in 2024, revised upwards from a 9.9% deficit target. The new goal would imply spending cuts and tax increases worth about 5% of GDP. And honestly, I just want to read what he said, because now, like, I can't really explain these plans to the listeners if they don't know what I'm talking about, to be honest. They talk about there are some people with concerns about his reforms. Well, it's like, don't you have concerns about what's happening either way? Don't you have concerns about the hyperinflation?
Well, and that's the thing, too. It's like, even if there were things to criticize about his plans, whatever's happening down there is so, like, people are starving, the economy's in ruins. That is, I mean, he's going to have to take drastic steps to even try to fix this. He was inherited a mess.
Yeah.
And it seems like, based on, previous speeches, the reason why he is running for president and the reason why he went through all of this work to become president is because he was so concerned. This is his home. This is where he and his family lives. You know what I mean? So it was so important for him to step up and, take on this challenge of trying to fix the economy. And his plan, it seems pretty good. It seems better than anything I've ever heard from a politician.
Right.
So, people can criticize it, but what are they doing? What is their plan?
If his plan works out, I think a lot of other countries will either adopt it or or they'll criticize them even more because, Javier Milei is definitely a popular candidate for a lot of us libertarians because, he's slashing government. He's doing a lot of good things that we see are good. But at the same time, he's going to be criticized on the world stage for doing all these things because they look at government as a good thing rather than a bad thing. And if he can improve his economy, they have to say something nice about him, hopefully. Or they can make stuff up, which, people do all the time.
And the media has a reason to make stuff up about him, even if he succeeds, because they work in lockstep with the government parasites to have their cushy, dumb jobs, which aren't really about getting to the truth, but more about reporting what the government wants them to report so they get their paycheck. There's levels to this parasite crap. There are the straight up parasites who just sit in an office all day, go like, oh my God, if they actually have to do any work.
Yeah.
And there are the even worse ones, honestly, that are prosecutors and judges, and they go after people and ruin their lives. They're professional liars and get paid a lot of money to do that. And there are these other types of parasites that they're just something like, oh, I work in finance and I finance BlackRock, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I work at BlackRock and I finance like big businesses, and they aren't really, they're just being held up by government. And journalists are another one. They're just held up by government. They're not actually doing anything. Not every journalist, but a huge amount of them, and especially in the mainstream media. They just get told what to write about.
It's definitely becoming a lot worse, and we see that happening more and more where the journalists are in the pocket of big government because it's good business to be in the pocket of government because they're going to give you all the good stories, they'll get all the nice press releases.
And it's protection, right?
Oh, yeah, it's protection for sure. It's definitely not freedom of the press that we should be enjoying here in the United States under the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. It's a way for governments or the tyrants, despots, and thieves to influence what reporters talk about in order to get them on their good side.
Well, we saw that before, right? I wish I could remember what the name of the newspaper was or where it was, but it was that newspaper where they raided the guy's house because he was speaking out against the police.
It was in Kansas, but I
remember that story. Yeah,
and then his mother, they raided the house and like harassed this like 90-year-old woman, and she ended up dying the next day. But like this is what happened. I mean, heck, we got raided here. I mean, I wonder why. Like this is what happens when you speak out against the powers that be. But somebody has to do it. So I mean.
Oh yeah.
Yep, I agree. And I also think that the government needs these people to keep people thinking that the government is good. So if the government is so obviously bad and then people don't have their opinions handed to them, they might make their own opinion about the government being bad. But and they get so in your face bad, but then all they see is like they turn on the news that night and it's the media telling them how the problem is actually someone else, not the government.
Yep.
603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. You can call in about whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country.
Yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United States has officially designated the Houthi rebels in Yemen as a terror organization. The move comes after a spate of attacks in past weeks by the Iran-backed militants on ships in the Red Sea, assaults the group claims are in solidarity with Palestinians amid the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. The US and its allies have responded in recent days with strikes on Houthi targets in an effort to protect freedom of navigation. From Washington, Benji Hire reports.
The Houthis were labelled as terrorists by Donald Trump's administration, but that was reversed by current Secretary of State Antony Blinken in 2021 as a way to make it easier to get food imports and humanitarian aid into Yemen. Wednesday's decision to relist them means the group's members will be banned from US soil, and American financial institutions will have to freeze Houthi funds. The White House insists addressing the ongoing threat by the rebels on commercial vessels in a vital shipping corridor is a problem that Western partners must address together to minimize the impact on the global economy and ensure the conflict in the Middle East doesn't escalate further. But the Houthis are vowing not to back down, pledging to retaliate by, quote, burning America's battleships.
Meanwhile, Italy's foreign minister says his country is working alongside France and Germany on a joint European military deployment to protect shipping in the Red Sea. Antonio Tajani was speaking at a press conference in the Italian capital where he set out Italy's priorities for its G7 presidency this year. Giles Gibson has more from Rome.
The Italian foreign minister says the aim is to expand on an existing mission in the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Iran, which started in 2020. Tajani said foreign ministers from the European Union will discuss a new deployment in the Red Sea when they meet next week, and that he's optimistic it will get the green light. Giles Gibson, Rome.
The judge presiding over Donald Trump's defamation trial has told the former president to keep his voice down. Mr. Trump was found liable for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll in May, and she's now seeking additional damages. William Denslow reports from New York.
Taking the witness stand, E. Jean Carroll said that Donald Trump's accusations ended the world she'd been living in. The writer says that she sometimes receives hundreds of messages online per day accusing her of lying. The former president has consistently denied sexually abusing her. The judge says this trial is not a do-over of last year's case, but is purely squared on whether Carroll is entitled to additional damages. In a fiery exchange during proceedings Wednesday, the judge threatened to remove Trump from court if he didn't keep his voice down. Trump's response: "I would love it."
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And I wanted to tell you that Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash, Digital Cash. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project with a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. And on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Riley,
and Nikki.
And it looks like we have a caller, unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Congratulations, ANCAPs. You inherited a Ponzi scheme. Your boy,
what does that
El
mean?
Loco, Justin.
Are you the Ponzi scheme?
El Loco. He inherited the Argentina Ponzi scheme economy.
Well, we're going to find out in a few years what that's going to look like,
credit
though.
for its collapse. And if it does succeed, democracy will take credit. Congratulations,
I thought
ANCAP.
that you like collapses.
You messed up.
You're so dumb. Like you're so inconsistent.
No.
Yeah, you are. You're
Did you
always
hear
saying
what I
like,
said?
Bonnie, if you care about freedom, you'll
Did
want the
anyone hear what I
collapse.
said?
Okay, goodbye. He's such a loser.
Skeeter
Like, you can't have a conversation with that
calls
idiot.
in a lot and talks about various things, thinking he's all smart and intelligent, but
he's probably like the dumbest caller who's ever called into the show.
Yeah,
like he had learned there are terms on the internet, and he uses them, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. He never makes any sense. And then like when you question him, he just says something like that. Like what did he even mean? Like I was responding to what you said, Skeeter. So obviously I heard what you said.
Yeah.
He's stupid. And yeah, it's hard to be the dumbest ever to call into the show.
Yeah, that's like actually kind of impressive. But yeah, I think he might be the dumbest and the most annoying person to ever call this show.
He just doesn't know how to have a conversation. He talks over hosts a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hear it all the time on the show because I edit show audio and stuff. So it's a little frustrating. Anyway.
And then he accuses you of not letting him speak. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
In the last segment, we were talking about Javier Milei, the new president of Argentina. He won as an open ANCAP, an anarcho-capitalist. And that was like a shock to everyone. Everybody was really surprised that happened. And he gave a speech at the World Economic Forum today. Today's Wednesday, so yeah. And it was really crazy good. Like, it's nice that these ideas are getting out there in such a wide scale. I've seen this all over the place today. And I really hope that it breaks out past just the libertarian crowd and more people see this. I mean, lots of people pay attention to the World Economic Forum.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like where the big global elites go to meet to figure out what they want to do with their economies.
And I don't know if I'm going to read this entire thing. It will take a while to read the entire thing, but I liked this article that we read in the last segment because it gives a lot of background, but I really want more of this on the air. And we're not going to be able to play Javier speaking it, considering he said it in Spanish. So I'm just going to start reading some of it. It says, "Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Today I'm here to tell you that the West is in danger. It is in danger because those who are supposed to defend the values of the West find themselves co-opted by a vision of the world that inexorably leads to socialism, consequently to poverty. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some right-thinking desires to help others," so some are that way.
There's nothing wrong with helping others. It's just, how do you want to go about it? Do you want to go about it by taxing people, by taxing certain groups of people, and demanding that they pay
I'm
their
sure there
fair
are
share?
people that think they're doing something right by doing that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I refuse to believe it's most of them.
Because
They
it's
would
the
have to be
concept
stupid.
of taking from the rich and giving to the poor, but like obviously we all know that that's not what happens.
Yeah.
Because the rich actually just get more tax breaks, and it's really just like the middle class, the working class, that's getting the brunt of the tax burden. And it's like, you can't actually help people without stealing from other people. Like, you don't have to hurt somebody else to help somebody that's less fortunate.
Right. Churches find ways to help the poor in their congregations better than governments do.
Right.
And if it was a really important cause, people would be happy to contribute to it without threat.
Yeah.
You know?
So he's not being milquetoast here. He says some are motivated by right-thinking desires to help others, and others motivated by the desire to belong to a privileged caste. The main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We're here to tell you that collectivist experiments, they are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world, but on the contrary, they are their cause. And collectivism, basically, if you don't know, means, well, we're all in this together. I have a problem, so it's your problem too, and you've got to help me fix it. And people aren't individuals who can decide what to do with their own time and money and lives.
It basically does not. Collectivism basically says we're going to manage everybody's time through top-down means rather than bottom-up means, and that basically puts the individual out of power. And the whole world, maybe not the whole world, but a lot of the world wants to lean more toward collectivism because They're like, oh, we all live in this world together. We're all collectivized. And, well, not really. If you think about it, there are people who live out in the country and there are people who live in cities. It seems like the big city types want to collectively decide what the people in the country should be doing with their time.
The thing about it, I do believe that we create a collective reality.
Sure.
We are all one. We are all part of this thing called the universe.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing about it is, when you harm other people, when you feel like somebody else has something, so I'm jealous and I am in a state of lack, all you're doing is polluting the collective consciousness that we all have to live in. All you're doing is causing harm. If you are not living your life by right action, which is what you have the right to do, and not doing what you don't have the right to do, then you will naturally be individualistic. You will naturally be altruistic. And oh my God, he gets into this so good here when he thanks business owners for all that they do. It's really good. So yeah, I know what you mean, Riley. I'm not disagreeing or anything.
Yeah.
But I think that some people might think, oh, I don't like what they're saying because, like, obviously we all live on this planet together. We do all live on this planet together, and it's not about being selfish. And I don't like some libertarians' ideas that, like, selfishness is actually good. I don't like that idea because, like, if I was a Christian, I'm kind of like a Swedenborgian, and he is all about the most important thing is doing things for other people. Like, when I think about how much my life sucks right now, all I can think about is, like, it's not about me. And that's the only thing that makes it better. Like, it sucks so bad. It's like the worst thing that I've ever been through. But it's not just about me. It's like I have other, like, if I thought about giving this to someone else, just being like, you know what, I'm going to walk away. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, my husband got put in prison for selling Bitcoin. If I thought about just walking away and not letting Free Talk Live be a thing anymore, that would not just be selfish, but it would... the universe needs this story arc to happen.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an important show. This is an important history-making experience we're having here. I mean, one of the founders of this show is in a prison cell right now, all for the crime of selling Bitcoin to willing buyers. He just didn't fill out the paperwork for the government.
The paperwork that didn't exist.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, I don't think he needed to fill it out, and then the jury decided he needed to fill it out. And it's just really stupid. You can learn more at thecrypto6.com.
I like what you're saying, though, because based on my observations, while being alive on this earth, it seems that people that are altruistic and people that are giving are also the same people that in turn become abundant, right? So, like, if you're constantly on, like, a lack wavelength, yeah, that's all you're gonna get. You know what I mean? Like, you're constantly sending the message out to the universe. I have nothing, and, like, that's all you're gonna get. You're just gonna keep getting crap.
Yeah.
When you operate from scarcity, you get scarcity. So, for example, if you're living in a world of, oh, I don't have enough of this, and I'll never have enough of X, Y, or Z. Yeah, you're never going to have enough.
Yeah, it's desperation. The universe doesn't speak desperation.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be abundant, you have to be abundant.
Yeah, and that leads to things like hoarding and stuff like that, because hoarders live in this mindset of, oh, I'm never going to have enough. I got to save all of this stuff because I'm never going to have enough of anything. And so
which is still a lack state, right?
Oh, yeah. And it's a state of fear. When you live in a state of love, which is something all of us struggle to do, all of us need to learn how to live in love with the universe or whatever, or God or whatever, and lead from abundance, lead from a place of, I'm going to manifest abundance by living an abundant life.
And when I was, like, struggling every day to pay bills and stuff, there was a girl that said something about that to me. And I remember getting kind of mad at her because she was born in a rich family.
Yeah.
And
it does feel offensive, right? It's like, are you, like, victim blaming me?
Yeah.
Right? It feels that way.
I had already become a libertarian. I was like, the government's, like, stealing what percentage of my money? Like, you're acting like it's my fault. But everything really changes when you change your mind. It's
absolutely
just mental over material.
I mean, I literally, like, I had it happen to me when I was, first starting up my businesses. I was just in such a state of desperation because I was so desperate for money. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll do anything to make money. Like, I really just need to pay my bills. And I was just, and you don't always realize you're there. But once you can learn how to reframe your mind and switch into a state of true abundance, I mean, and I'm not saying it's easy and it takes a lot of inner work, but it is possible. And like, that's why you see those entrepreneurs who have multi-million-dollar businesses. It's not because they're all cutthroat and they're all like Elon Musks who are taking handouts from the government and doing all of these like slimy things. You can truly have an abundant life without being a slime ball.
Yep. And it's much easier in a country that is not impeding you from being able to do anything, though. Like in Cuba, it's going to be a lot harder.
Absolutely,
I mean, it's going to be almost impossible. I don't even know if they can start a business in Cuba, honestly. It looks like we do have a caller, though, so I want to let them on. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. It sort of relates to what you guys were talking about. So I'm in my late 20s here. I studied economics. I'm pro, free market capitalism. I went to those Mises events back in the day, and so, but just stepping away from like academia, school, into the real world, and living through the consequences of price inflation, which is a result of monetary inflation. There's a big difference between like reading about it, right? Reading what Rothbard or Mises say about the expansive money supply and, all things equal, that leads to rising prices. There's a difference between reading that, at least in my case, right, as a young person, not really exposed to, the reality of living as an adult, and relative to now. So my thinking is, I just want to see what you guys think and what your audience think. But the way I look at things now is the increase in inflation, right? The at the monetary level increases price inflation, right? It's just the currency gets depreciated. But kind of relating what you guys were getting at. So I work in finance, and it's I work long hours, really long hours, and I'm starting to realize that even though I work in a pretty good sector, making decent income for someone my age, I'm paycheck to paycheck, essentially. And I'm starting to realize that, my managers and, upper management, leadership, X, Y, and Z, these guys are on easy mode. And it's starting to seem like some sort of like, feudalism of some sort, meaning, these managers tell me to do X, Y, and Z every day. They do nothing, meaning they don't log in over 10 hours a day. For example, I started working today at 7 a.m. Eastern time. I get done around like 6:30, right? So that's 10 plus hours there, and my manager was gone by 4:30 p.m.
Interesting.
That's usually
Right,
how
so-
it is, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I
that's-
hear this
yeah.
same thing.
I mean, do they do nothing? Do they not have like maybe just some maybe more stressful tasks that they have to get done, and then maybe like stuff you don't see behind the scenes, or do you really believe that they're doing nothing? It's an honest question.
Yeah, that's a good point, and it's all relative, right? Like the skills that they do are people skills, right? So being sociable, right? Because they talk to clients, and then they talk to us, and they talk to others in my company. Relative to me and my team, it's pure technical, right? And so maybe that's why I feel like I work harder than them, right? Because my own view is, being able to crunch out numbers is a lot harder than being able to talk to some random schmuck.
Yeah,
but the point I want to make is, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, I felt that way whenever I worked like any sort of clock in, clock out style of job where, and I come from a healthcare background, right? So I was either working as a nurse's aide, and that's like really like the, the grunt work, right? Or even as a nurse where it was like, I'm seeing my manager, and I just felt like they were super lazy and they were getting paid a ton of money, and we were all busting our butts. And it seemed like, hey, like you guys are getting paid a lot more money than I am for doing a lot less work.
Sometimes I think that it just evens out because of the fact it just depends on like the industry. Like I'm not saying I know what your bosses are doing, caller, or Nikki's bosses were doing, but I've heard that this is very clear and in your face an idea in the hotel industry, which I worked for hotels for like 5 years, and I just got a job in the front desk because I'm not like I just was able to show that I could figure those things out. And I got a job at the front desk. I was like 19, and I didn't start off making more money than the housekeepers that have been there for years. Like they have gotten their raises, and they, like it's not like I just make more money than them. But if somebody got hired as a housekeeper, I made more money than them because they just started. And you start off less as a housekeeper than a person at the front desk. And I had a good friend who was a housekeeper. Obviously, she was working literally physically harder than me. Obviously, she would like we'd get off work at the same time, and she'd be like sweating, and we'd like I drive her to her house, and like she'd take a shower before we got ready to go do something else, and like I would not be sweating. So sometimes it feels like, oh, the housekeepers work so much harder, why do they get paid less? But the amount of stress from having to deal with the front desk losers who come in like this egg is not 90 degrees. It's 89 degrees. And all
Has
this
that ever
crap.
happened?
Well, almost. When I say almost, I'm like not exaggerating. Like I can't even explain to you how terrible people become when they realize they're a hotel guest and you're working at the hotel. Like some of the worst people in the entire world.
So basically what you're saying is it's just like a different kind of work that typically management would have to do.
And not just that, but like I tried telling her, my friend, her English was not her first language, so there's that. I'm not saying she's stupid or anything, but I tried, like, I would let her stand behind the desk with me, and I would like show her what I was doing on like just the computer side, like logging people in. It's very simple. And she was like, I could never wrap my mind around this. Like she probably just believed that about herself. Maybe she could if she really tried.
Yeah,
but
there's also that. Yeah.
If you're not even willing to just try to learn a computer skill, like I'm sorry, you're probably going to be busting your butt doing physical stuff. And I know it's not exactly the same thing as your situation, caller, but I can't really just like blame or like I can't really see the whole picture because I don't work at your job. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I guess the point I wanted to ultimately make, which kind of you kind of mentioned there in terms of your own experience, is that I'm a believer in climbing the ladder. Right, we all start somewhere, and it's not sunshine and lollipops in the first rung of the ladder.
I mean, climbing a ladder is always a tough experience. You got to build. You don't go to a gym and lift 400-pound weights. You got to build up to it.
Exactly. But my thinking is the reason why other people that are left leaning and support these redistribution policies, kind of what Milei was talking about in terms of, I think what he was talking about more was like diversity. But if we just include like redistribution of wealth into that, I feel like a lot of young people feel that way because maybe they're getting their first, second jobs out of school, and they're in the same position I am, right? But unfortunately, the current monetary situation we live in, which is prices increasing on average 2% every year, that just eats up in terms of your real wage.
Yeah.
It does.
Absolutely.
I mean, and it's increasing more because of the inflation that's been going on. It's just
exactly
more people are noticing it now. More people are upset over the inflation because they're really noticing it.
I know a lot of people who I've heard this story a lot of times where someone will say, I am struggling more now. Like they were struggling less when they were working entry-level minimum wage jobs than they are now making almost double that.
Like at Walmart, I know that I never wanted to become a manager because they were always like, oh, work a little harder and you might get the chance to be a CSM or whatever they called it, the manager that's at the front. Everyone that I saw do that in like a week was like, why am I doing this? I'm making a little bit more money.
For a lot more work.
For a lot more responsibility, like people getting mad at the front desk at Walmart. But have to deal with that.
But I think it goes beyond that, though. I think it's really just a reflection of how bad the economy is now, that when I was 16 years old working at a petting zoo, making like whatever, $9 an hour, now that my income is a lot more than that, I'm still, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, I can't, it really dawns on you when you're at the grocery store and it's like, these things cost almost 3 times more than they did 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like the dollar cannot buy as much as it once could. So it doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO of the company. Every single person that is using that currency is going to feel those effects, you know?
It's a secret hidden tax where they're stealing the value of your money from you.
Yeah, and I don't think any sort of wealth distribution, like taking from the rich and giving to the poor, like that's not what's going to fix it. It's like we need true...
Because people who don't know how to manage money are going to find that money's managing them. In other words, they're going to find that if they have $1,000 in their bank account and they're not able to hold on to that $1,000 or invest it or save it and add to it, they're going to find themselves keep working on that hamster wheel all the time, trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Well, that's true, but it doesn't even matter because the economy is so bad. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how good you can invest. It doesn't matter what your salary is, how much money you're making. I mean, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse.
Sure.
I mean, and that's the point is that it's never using the fiat currency. Like it's never going to get better. They keep doing all these welfare programs. They keep printing all of this money. They are literally destroying. I mean, in Argentina, but also in the United States, they're destroying their currency. And it's like our money is essentially worthless, and it's becoming more and more worthless as the time goes on.
It's definitely like, it's not just the terms you think of when you learn about America and whatever in school.
It's a land of opportunity, except now it's full of inflation and theft.
And I still think that you can get ahead, but sometimes it's just going to suck so bad until you just have to push through some stuff because it's going to be extremely hard. It's extremely hard to just like survive nowadays.
Yeah.
I think it's also a good idea to invest in other things. So, I mean, why would I keep my money in the fiat currency when I could invest in gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, things that actually have more value?
Yeah, hold their value. 603-283-6160. Thank you for the call, caller. It's Free Talk Live. You can call in about whatever is on your mind. That's 603-283-6160, and more is coming up.
If you're looking for work, or even if you're not, here's an innocent mistake you really want to avoid. Never return calls before listening to your voicemail. Your wireless phone sends calls you didn't answer into voicemail, and it shows you phone numbers for calls you missed. Important. Don't call back callers you missed until you have first listened to your messages. Otherwise, you frustrate people who bothered to leave messages by asking them to repeat a message they just left as your voicemail greeting instructed them to. If you're a job applicant, this alone could be a deal killer. And even if you're not, there are few things you can convey to someone that are as fundamentally maddening as, "I didn't hear you." With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United States has officially designated the Houthi rebels in Yemen as a terror organization. The move comes after a spate of attacks in past weeks by the Iran-backed militants on ships in the Red Sea, assaults the group claims are in solidarity with Palestinians amid the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. The US and its allies have responded in recent days with strikes on Houthi targets in an effort to protect freedom of navigation. From Washington, Benji Hire reports.
The Houthis were labelled as terrorists by Donald Trump's administration, but that was reversed by current Secretary of State Antony Blinken in 2021 as a way to make it easier to get food imports and humanitarian aid into Yemen. Wednesday's decision to relist them means the group's members will be banned from US soil and American financial institutions will have to freeze Houthi funds. The White House insists addressing the ongoing threat by the rebels on commercial vessels in a vital shipping corridor is a problem that Western partners must address together to minimise the impact on the global economy and ensure the conflict in the Middle East doesn't escalate further. But the Houthis are vowing not to back down, pledging to retaliate by, quote, burning America's battleships. Benji Hire, Washington.
The designation will take effect 30 days from now. Meanwhile, Italy's foreign minister says his country is working alongside France and Germany on a joint European military deployment to protect shipping in the Red Sea. Antonio Tajani was speaking at a press conference in the Italian capital where he set out Italy's priorities for its G7 presidency this year. Giles Gibson has more from Rome.
The Italian foreign minister says the aim is to expand on an existing mission in the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Iran, which started in 2020. Tajani said foreign ministers from the European Union will discuss a new deployment in the Red Sea when they meet next week, and that he's optimistic it will get the green light. Giles Gibson, Rome.
The judge presiding over Donald Trump's defamation trial has told the former president to keep his voice down. Mr. Trump was found liable for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll in May, and she's now seeking additional damages. William Denslow reports from New York.
Taking the witness stand, E. Jean Carroll said that Donald Trump's accusations ended the world she'd been living in. The writer says that she sometimes receives hundreds of messages online per day accusing her of lying. The former president has consistently denied sexually abusing her. The judge says this trial is not a do-over of last year's case, but is purely squared on whether Carroll is entitled to additional damages. In a fiery exchange during proceedings Wednesday, the judge threatened to remove Trump from court if he didn't keep his voice down. Trump's response: "I would love it." William Denslow, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. US President Joe Biden is meeting members of Congress at the White House to try to come to a resolution on major security spending that includes aid for Ukraine and Israel. Republican representatives want more security on the US border before agreeing to his requests. Caroline Malone reports from Washington.
It's the first face-to-face discussion between President Biden and congressional leaders in months on what the White House sees as critical funding for Ukraine and Israel. Biden asked for $100 billion as part of a package months ago, but there's been no agreement from the House, with representatives wanting a border crackdown. Negotiations have been ongoing for weeks. Republicans are pushing to restrict the use of what's known as humanitarian parole that gives asylum to Afghans and Ukrainians fleeing war. The White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre said, "We want to see a bipartisan agreement." Caroline Malone, Washington.
The Princess of Wales is in hospital following planned abdominal surgery. A statement released by Kensington Palace said the surgery was successful and that the princess would likely remain in hospital for 2 weeks to recover. From London, Simon Gaitan reports.
The statement released by Kensington Palace on Wednesday announced that Catherine, Princess of Wales, had undergone planned abdominal surgery at a private London hospital on Tuesday. The palace said that the surgery was successful and that it expected the princess would remain in hospital for 10 to 14 days of recovery. It added that based on the latest medical advice, Catherine would be unlikely to return to official duties until after Easter. On behalf of the princess, the statement apologised for the postponement of her engagements. Simon Gaitan, London.
And that's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
With weather conditions in the Sahara among the most brutal in the world, the desert is a place suitable only for collapsing, dying, and rotting. Starvation is just one of the many possible outcomes for the gazelle or desert elk. It could also suffocate in a sandstorm, collapse of dehydration, or be run over by a dune buggy. Only the vulture has the wherewithal to survive in this nirvana of death. They feed on the dead of the Sahara, uniquely adapted to the rigors of desert life. The vulture usually dies of heart disease after becoming overweight from the feast of carcasses. The landscape of the desert is dominated by towering sand dunes made from millions of years of ground-up bones. Another day ends in the Sahara, Earth's largest, most uncomfortable tomb.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And I wanted to thank Robbie, who's a silver level amplifier. That means that Robbie is giving at least $5 a month to the AMPS program. That stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. So when you give money to the AMPS program, you're helping to advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. And we thank you so much for that. If you would like to learn more, we thank you, Robbie, so much for that. And if you'd like to learn more, you can go to amps.freetalklive.com. That's amps.freetalklive.com. And with you tonight on Free Talk Live, it's me, Bonnie,
Riley,
and Nikki.
And it looks like we have Dave Ridley from New Hampshire from RidleyReport.com on the air with us. Ridley, what's on your mind?
Ridley.
Well, while I was getting ready to go into the State House, or at least I was standing outside, holding a sign for the Independence bill, some people started walking past me, and I pulled up my camera and said, "Are you guys state reps?" I was going to ask them questions about whether they support our right to vote on independence. Mm-hmm. And they said, "No, we're not state reps. We're survivors of the USS Liberty."
Yeah.
So
I've heard about
that's
this.
That's not something that walks past you every day. Right?
Yeah,
Oh, no, not really.
It was crazy.
It's one of the most famous U.S. ships in history, attacked by the government of Israel for how long did the attack last? An hour? 2 hours?
I'm not sure, but they were without help for a long time.
Like 13 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a 40-foot by 40-foot torpedo hole in their ship.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's insane.
I didn't know that until I heard these guys speaking.
And the U.S. government did not investigate it or try to cover it up or whatever, and it's really sad.
And the government told these people, you're not going to talk about this to anyone. Shut up.
So they went in and testified on there's a bill by State Rep Jason Gerhardt, I don't know if he's a Free Stater. He's definitely a Liberty rep who's moved here, within the last 10 years. And so he sponsored a bill to create a state investigation of the USS Liberty attack. Does that make sense?
Yes. He's there. They want to ask the government of New Hampshire to just start to investigate. I really, maybe the state of New Hampshire is going to ask the federal government to investigate. Is that it?
I don't think so. I think this is a state investigation. I don't think Jason's into getting the federal government to do investigations.
Yeah, probably not. I think he just wants New Hampshire to try and find a way to investigate this whole experience of the survivors and the whole ship disaster.
Okay.
When I was in college, I went through this course called Hometown Foreign Policy, and it was run by kind of a secession-leaning guy a little bit, or who's sort of an autonomy guy that likes the idea of local government doing the governing in the United States instead of the big government, the big federal government. And this is sort of I haven't seen very many examples of that working very well, but this is a nice example of at least trying. Something else that happened while I was there, as I was toward the end of my stay there, because I stayed at the building until I was there like between, I don't know, I guess 12:15 p.m. and 3:15 p.m. roughly, or maybe 3 p.m. And around 3 p.m., after everybody was gone, there was a building or a vehicle pulled up with a billboard on its side, one of those changing billboards, like an electronic billboard, and it was there to support the guys on the Liberty, the USS Liberty, and it was showing all these pictures of misdeeds by the Israeli government.
Oh wow!
Where was it?
This is just right in front of the State House, and the guys at the Liberty, I guess they were still there too, and they went out and hung out with the guys at the truck, and so that was just another thing that happened that
really
most
cool.
people probably weren't aware of.
Yeah, I did not see that. I kind of as soon as the second secession bill was over, I just kind of left, and I also got there too late to go to the sine wave. Really, I had to go set up my camera, and I did listen to those people's testimony though, and it was, oh my God, just so heartbreaking that their own government, it's like, I hate to say it like that, but the government these people pledged to serve truly, because they're the government, or they're the military.
The military, yep.
They got told by them we don't care that you were attacked wrongfully by the Israeli government. Don't talk about it. We don't care that all your friends just died in front of you. We don't care that you didn't get help for hours. Don't talk about it. That's so crazy. Imagine, I don't know, just imagine being in a car accident and the police come over and they're like, it didn't happen. It's obviously not your fault. That's a way smaller scale.
And this occurred during the Vietnam era. So, the United States is already focusing on another war. So I'm wondering if this is an attempt to keep the focus on Vietnam and not something else.
Well, what was your take? I understand that someone from the American Legion was there and gave some pretty disturbing testimony against the USS Liberty guys. What was your take on that? I haven't heard.
It wasn't quite against them as much as apparently in this bill, the American Legion was named, and he just went up there very rude and gross, and he was like, I just wanted to say the American Legion does not want to be a part of this, and if our name isn't removed, we will take legal consequences. And then he was giggling, he was being such a freak. I zoomed in on him.
Do we know what is the language in the bill where they're mentioned?
Right, I didn't get that, so that's all
I
he
wasn't
said.
aware of that.
And it was just kind of gross. Imagine this guy's going up there talking about all my friends are dead on the deck next to me. I'm waiting for the ship to just sink because there's 40 by 40 foot hole in the side, and they wanted us to drive all the way sail all the way to Malta to get help instead of just helping them. Oh my God, it just sounded so terrible. The Israeli person who finally showed up to help them flicked him off.
What?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was and imagine just going up there and giggling and being like, blah, 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 my company. Blah.
Oh, that's nice. But anyways, screw you guys.
Yeah,
it's just
awful.
a whole silly, finger poking thing at the various branches of the military or whatever.
And I don't even know what the American Legion really is.
I don't either.
It's like a veteran nonprofit type of thing.
Okay. I figured it was
it's like a
club.
Veteran
club.
Yeah, it's like a club. Yeah.
It's a club and they're not in it.
Yeah.
You wear a hat and then you go there and drink beer. I'm pretty sure it's just one of those.
Apparently doing exactly what you were told to be doing by the military, and then getting attacked by the people you're supposed to be on the side of makes you unable to ever join the American Legion. It's not like they did a war crime. The Israeli government did.
So in addition to making threats, is it true that the American Legion guy refused to accept questions?
I think so, yes, from what I remember.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, this is another thing, this is is interesting as this USS Liberty bill is, and as much as I wanted to talk about it, it's still hacking at the branches, right? So we're going to solve this one problem that's 50 some odd years old. It won't solve any of the other problems. It won't even solve that one.
It's kind of, what's the word, like symbolic too. Like it's just kind of doing a symbolic gesture.
It's a nice gesture.
And it was nice to like support those guys in a way, like just like sit there and film them. I might make a video with it, but I don't know if I will. But it was nice to let those people have their first time ever being able to. It's just like, this is what they were happy about. This is what those people, the survivors, were really happy about. They were happy that they were able to, for the first time ever since 1976 when this happened, speak to a governmental body about what happened to them and ask for like something. So that was kind of nice to support, like, and everything, but it was also like exactly what Ridley is saying. It's like, I don't feel like this is going to lead to any resolution, anything that's really, really substantial and good for anyone.
Well, it's not bad. I mean,
it's not.
I appreciate what's going on. It's just that this is yet one of the many thousands of issues that would be dealt with if we could just get out of this dystopian union.
Of course, but it's hard to get out of a dystopian union when people are so focused on maintaining the Pledge of Allegiance or a flag or things like that.
Well, that's the beauty of an independence drive. You don't have to leave the union to get some of these other things done. Just the fact that you have a movement pushing to leave the union makes them scared to do all kinds of things. I mean, our movement's not big enough to do that to them yet, but the Texit movement is, and over time we will become big enough, likely, to hopefully have them take their foot off the gas a little bit, as one of our people put it.
Yeah. I'm just hopeful for a break from the federal government because, I don't know about our listeners. I don't know about the American people listening to us out there, but I'm so tired of these presidential elections and the stumping around and the running around these politicians. I don't care. I don't care about these people. Why do I have to sit around listening to people who want to rule over me tell me, oh, we're going to do the greatest thing for America? No, you're not. You don't care. You just want power. And I'm so sick of it. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I really want to vote this election cycle because I'm sick of the choices that I have.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty valid.
So,
Ridley?
What do you have to say about that, Ridley?
Nothing to add.
Well,
all right.
Thank you so much for your call. That I just feel a little conflicted about that hearing. It was very interesting. It's very sad. We even have a caller, not on the line, but a woman caller that hasn't called in a while, at least on the day that I've been on. I think she only listens on the weekends. And she told us that her only brother died on the USS Liberty. And they they didn't give her any. They didn't give them very much information.
Of course not. Yeah.
Brother wasn't there to explain it to him, and then she learns all this crap later in different documentaries or whatever. It's just
horrifying.
So sad.
Yeah, it is really sad. Because there's already, as a family member, there's already such a lack of closure there, right?
Yeah.
And then to find out like some gruesome details about it, like through like a third party source, like a documentary. I mean, it's
really
has
sad.
to be tough.
It's got to make it really tough.
I wonder if it's true what Libertariat in the chat is saying. He's saying that basically one of the people on the USS Liberty was an NSA employee, and he was spying on Israel during the middle of the, I think it was the 6-Day War that they were in.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that means they deserve to get bombed. I'm just saying.
Do you think maybe that's why?
Maybe that could be why.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's still
he is in the military.
Experience. Yeah.
I don't know. It's still very tragic for people to die.
Sure.
For, any government. And it's also just like, okay, well, they were also supposed to be the allies. So isn't that still bad? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, I want to get back into a little bit more of this speech that Javier Milei gave, because we didn't really get into the really dang, I can't believe he said that to the WEF type of stuff. And we read in the first hour an article that explained what he was doing there. Javier Milei is speaking at the World Economic Forum today. Javier Milei is the president of Argentina. He wanted an open anarcho-capitalist, which is just crazy. So a free market supporting libertarian.
Yeah, it's very rare that happens in the world.
And he won the presidency there is that he started off by saying that the West is in danger because people have slowly moved more towards socialism, which consequently leads to poverty. And he said some people are doing it because they're right-thinking, helpful people who desire to help others, and some people are motivated to push the West towards socialism out of a desire to belong to a privileged caste. And that's what government parasites are. They so the top do less work and get paid anyway by the people who are forced to pay them by their dumb lackey goon cops that will kill them if they don't give their money to the parasite class and by extension the cops. So he goes on, he says, we are here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world, but on the contrary, they are their cause. Believe me, there is no one better than us Argentinians to testify to these two issues. When we adopted the model of freedom back in the 1860s, in 35 years, we became the first world power. Well, when we embraced collectivism over the last 100 years, we saw how our citizens began to become poorer. And that definitely happened, systematically, until falling to number 140 in the world. But before we can give this discussion, it will be important that first we see the data that supports why not only is free enterprise capitalism not only a possible system to end poverty in the world, but it is the only system morally desirable to achieve it. If we consider the history of economic progress, we can see how from year 0 to approximately the year 1800, the world's GDP per capita practically remained constant throughout the reference period. If one looks at a graph of the evolution of economic growth throughout the history of humanity, one would be looking at a graph that's shaped like a hockey stick, an exponential function which remained constant for 90% of the time and skyrocketed exponentially starting in the 19th century. He's saying things have only gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
The only exception to this history of stagnation occurred at the end of the 15th century with the discovery of America. But apart from this exception, throughout the entire period between the year 0 and 1800, GDP per capita at a global level remained stagnant. Oh, I guess I was misunderstanding him. So he was saying that once America came about, it got better. But now, not only did capitalism generate an explosion of wealth from the moment it was adopted as an economic system, but if one analyzes the data, what is observed is that growth is coming, accelerating throughout the entire period. During the entire period between year 0 and 1800, the growth rate remained stable at around 0.02% annually. That is practically no growth. Starting in the 19th century with the Industrial Revolution, the growth rate increased to 0.66%. At that rate, to double the GDP per capita, it would need to grow for 107 years. Now, if we look at the period between 1900 and 1950, the growth rate accelerates to 1.66, a whole extra point, annually. We no longer need 107 years to double GDP per capita, but 66. And if we take the period between 1950 and 2000, we see that the growth rate was 2.1% annually, which would mean that only in 33 years could the world's GDP per capita double. This trend, far from stopping, remains alive even today. If we take the period, so now we're saying it's only getting better. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood the beginning. Because I knew that he got to this point where he starts talking about that we live in the freest time, or I mean the most prosperous time
We
ever.
really do live in the most prosperous time. I mean, we all have computers in our pockets.
Yep.
We can order food delivered to our house through apps.
That's true.
And, you know, we live in a very prosperous age, and this wouldn't have happened if socialism or top-down economic policies happened because of government. Governments can't think of these things.
Right.
Entrepreneurs do.
It is nice to not have to like boil bath water
for sure.
like, you know what I mean? Like it's not, electricity is cool. Like all of the modern amenities are pretty nice.
Oh, definitely. It's nice to have internet to be able to communicate around the world with everybody.
So I'm going to skip all the part where he is talking about like the numbers, because
yeah, he gets pretty technical in there.
He does. It says the conclusion is obvious. Far from being the cause of our problems, free enterprise capitalism as an economic system is the only tool we have to end hunger, poverty, and homelessness throughout the world, the planet. The empirical evidence is unquestionable. Therefore, as there is no doubt that free market capitalism is superior in productive terms, the leftists have attacked capitalism for its questions of morality, for being, according to them, its detractors say, that it is unfair. They say that capitalism is bad because it is individualistic, and that collectivism is good because it is altruistic, and consequently they fight for social justice. But this concept, which in the first word has become fashionable in the last decade, in my country has been a constant in political discourse for more than 80 years. The problem is that social justice is not only not fair, but it also does not contribute to the general well-being, which is what people who believe in that stuff really believe that it's supposed to do. Like, oh, we always give everybody the same opportunity in life, blah, blah, blah. Well, it doesn't work out that way.
Social justice has become a political weapon to use against people who are non-compliant to their ideology.
Right, definitely. He says, quite the contrary, it is an inherently unjust idea because it is violent, because it is unfair, and the state is financed through taxes, and taxes are collected coercively. Or can any of us choose to not pay taxes? Which means that the state is financed through coercion, and that the greater the tax burden, the greater the coercion, the less freedom those who promote social justice start from the idea that the entire economy is a cake that can be distributed differently, but that cake is not given. It is wealth that is generated in what Kerzner calls a discovery process. If you produce a good quality product at an attractive price, you will do well and produce more. So the market is a process of discovery in which the capitalist finds the right direction on the fly. But if the state punishes the capitalist for being successful and blocks him in this process of discovery, it destroys his incentives. And the consequence of this is that he will produce less and the cake will be smaller, generating harm to the group as a whole. Dang. In the society, so harm to the group as a whole, the society. Collectivism, by inhibiting these discovery processes and making the appropriation of what is discovered difficult, ties the entrepreneur's hands and makes it impossible for him to produce better goods and offer better services at a better price. How can it be then that from the academy, international organizations, politics, and economic theory, an economic system is demonized that has not only taken from the most extreme poverty to 90% of the world's population? That might be a little bit of a mistranslation. And it does so more and more rapidly, but it's also fair and morally superior. I think he's trying to say not only taken from the most extreme poverty to, I don't know what that part meant, but he's saying that it's only helped people become less poverty-stricken and more.
Well, when you allow people to grow their own businesses or start a business or do whatever they want with their time and resources, people are going to prosper. We can't force top-down prosperity. It's got to come from the bottom up. When people are inspired to build and grow, they're going to grow.
He says, thanks to free market capitalism today, the world is at its best. There has never been in the entire history of humanity a moment of greater prosperity than the one we live in today. 603-283-6160. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live. We're talking about Javier Milei and his speech at the World Economic Forum.
Free Talk Live.
They gently kind of hang on to it or manipulate it with their mouths. The pufferfish then releases toxins that seem to intoxicate the dolphins.
He's getting high. Apparently, there's legislation in India to consider dolphins to be non-human persons. Would dolphins be subject to arrest for getting intoxicated?
How else could they deal with this threat to the dolphins?
Obviously, there's disorderly conduct and public public intoxication.
I bet they'll resist arrest too.
Yeah, because dolphins don't really have hands, and they're going to fight you, and a dolphin will rape you.
Think of the money for the prison industrial complex here. I mean, they'll have to build whole new underwater prisons for the dolphins. This could be big.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United States has officially designated the Houthi rebels in Yemen as a terror organization. The move comes after a spate of attacks in past weeks by the Iran-backed militants on ships in the Red Sea, assaults the group claims are in solidarity with Palestinians amid the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. The US and its allies have responded in recent days with strikes on Houthi targets in an effort to protect freedom of navigation. From Washington, Benji Hire reports.
The Houthis were labelled as terrorists by Donald Trump's administration, but that was reversed by current Secretary of State Antony Blinken in 2021 as a way to make it easier to get food imports and humanitarian aid into Yemen. Wednesday's decision to relist them means the group's members will be banned from US soil, and American financial institutions will have to freeze Houthi funds. The White House insists addressing the ongoing threat by the rebels on commercial vessels in a vital shipping corridor is a problem that Western partners must address together to minimize the impact on the global economy and ensure the conflict in the Middle East doesn't escalate further. But the Houthis are vowing not to back down, pledging to retaliate by, quote, burning America's battleships.
Meanwhile, Italy's foreign minister says his country is working alongside France and Germany on a joint European military deployment to protect shipping in the Red Sea. Antonio Tajani was speaking at a press conference in the Italian capital where he set out Italy's priorities for its G7 presidency this year. Giles Gibson has more from Rome.
The Italian foreign minister says the aim is to expand on an existing mission in the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Iran, which started in 2020. Tajani said foreign ministers from the European Union will discuss a new deployment in the Red Sea when they meet next week, and that he's optimistic it will get the green light. Giles Gibson, Rome.
The judge presiding over Donald Trump's defamation trial has told the former president to keep his voice down. Mr. Trump was found liable for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll in May, and she's now seeking additional damages. William Denslow reports from New York.
Taking the witness stand, E. Jean Carroll said that Donald Trump's accusations ended the world she'd been living in. The writer says that she sometimes receives hundreds of messages online per day accusing her of lying. The former president has consistently denied sexually abusing her. The judge says this trial is not a do-over of last year's case, but is purely squared on whether Carroll is entitled to additional damages. In a fiery exchange during proceedings Wednesday, the judge threatened to remove Trump from court if he didn't keep his voice down. Trump's response: "I would love it."
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Riley,
and Nikki.
And I'm not going to read the entire rest of this thing. I'm going to try to post it. I don't really know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to post it on social and also, well, I'll definitely share the original article with you guys. Oh, I know what I can do. I can take the actual video and share it on social media, at least on Free Talk Live's Twitter, which is just at Free Talk Live. As far as this like English 9-page thing I have, I will try to find a way to share it. If somebody like emails me or Ian at freetalklive.com and really wants it, I will send it to them because I have it all here like it's been a pretty good translation so far. All that I read so far, I feel like there's like one error that I couldn't really understand what the sentence is trying to say. But we've been talking in the last couple segments about Javier Milei's speech at the World Economic Forum, Davos convention they have in Switzerland, I think it is.
Yeah, it's in Switzerland.
And there are a bunch of bad people, mostly.
Well, we think they're bad because they want to control our lives, but others might think they're so good.
Yeah, they're bad
They're
people
so good,
because
Bonnie.
they want to take everything, own everything, and we just rent it from them.
Yeah.
Does anybody really think those people are good? Because I think even like the leftists who like kind of do believe in that style of policy are still extremely critical of them because of the blatant hypocrisy.
Oh, I'm sure
I mean,
they
like,
are. I mean,
you guys all fly here in private jets.
Yeah. Right.
You're not even flying like, business class or coach. You know what I
So
mean?
how can you care about the poor when you're flying around in private jets?
Well, it's about well, typically, I mean, a lot of what they talk about is about
Climate.
like the climate. So, I mean, that's just like blatant hypocrisy.
Yeah, I heard.
You know what I mean? Like, you should be walking there.
Greta Thunberg claims that she like takes
like
trains for like 3 days
Yeah.
to get places, and I don't know if I believe her.
I actually do believe her because
Really?
she would seem like the type of person to do that. She is an environmental activist. However, I do think that she believes so fully in this whole idea, but she's having a falling out with the other climate people because they're practicing hypocrisy while she's trying to take this environmentalist fear or hysteria or whatever you want to call it, this environmentalist story as seriously as you can because she believes in it and she wants to save the environment.
Well, she probably calls them out, right?
She
I don't
does.
really follow any of this, but I'm assuming if she's really like as, principled as she claims she is, that she would,
She does call them out, but the thing is, like, she's like, you government people, you're not doing enough, and it's like maybe she just needs
it's
to
like, no,
figure out
them doing more is actually worse.
Yeah. These
Yeah.
people who are being total hypocrites, you really trust them to just suddenly start caring about your cause or you? Well, we have other stuff to talk about tonight. This is from the AP, and I thought it was pretty funny, actually. It says, no joke, feds are banning humorous electronic messages on highways.
I've seen the story.
No, I love those.
Really?
That's like the best part about like the Department of Transportation is their little like funny things.
Yeah.
No, I actually really
If
enjoy
I had to
those.
choose the best part.
Yeah, it's like you guys are complete trash, but every once in a while I'm driving on the highway and I see a little funny thing. I can't even think of an example now, but they'll do them for the holidays or whatever.
Yep.
Just a cute little clever thing. And normally I hate stuff like that, but for some reason it just makes me chuckle and it's like, oh, you guys did something, to make me happy for once.
Well, the feds want to destroy that. It says
poor signs.
It says it's no joke. Humorous and quirky messages on electronic signs will soon disappear from highways and freeways across the country. The U.S. Federal Highway Administration has given states 2 years to implement all the changes outlined in its new 1,100-page manual.
Holy moly.
Released last month, including rules that spell out how signs and other traffic control devices are regulated. Administration officials said overhead electronic signs with obscure meanings, reference to pop culture, or those intended to be funny will be banned in 2026 because they can be misunderstood or distracting to drivers. I feel like that's just never happened.
You know what's distracting to drivers is when a cop pulls somebody over for no reason
And they're on the
and
road.
they're blinding everybody. I mean, hopefully you don't have epilepsy because there's freaking strobe lights
That's so true.
on the side of the road. I mean, you know how many times I get like sometimes flustered by headlights being too bright or like the LED headlights or if people like flash their high beams at me. Like, I mean, even that's bad enough. Never mind, you have these bright flash, and they're bright
Blue,
too.
yeah.
Blue, you know what I mean? It's not only is that giving people like anxiety, but it's also completely blinding and super dangerous.
And the other night, I can't remember if you were in the car, Riley, but we went to Nikki's house and we brought Riley with us.
Yep.
And it was either when we picked you up and we were on our way to Nikki's house or after we dropped you off.
I think it was on our way back.
Oh, you were there? Because there was this cop on the side of the road that had pulled someone over, and I was just lucky I was able to go around him. He was all in my lane.
Oh.
Like, I was lucky I saw him in time, and I didn't just, was looking behind me talking to someone in the back seat or something. Well, not really lucky. Like, I just don't do that. But it's just, he wasn't even tried to be pulled off to the shoulder. And he was just like, you'll go around me while he had somebody pulled over. You know? Like, that's so stupid and so much more not just distracting, but incredibly dangerous.
And then if I did that, I'd get a ticket.
Right, exactly.
You would. But, the shiny badge wearing people get extra exceptions.
Yeah. Ugh. We always come back to how we hate cops.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's hard not to. I mean, they're so hateable.
They're so, parasites.
Yeah.
Goons.
Yep. Despots, tyrants.
I mean, I feel like they're all parasites, like all of the, government people and the bureaucrats, but I feel like cops, since they're just like outwardly like attacking the entire population all the time, I feel like that's why it's like, wow, I can really get behind hating you even more.
Here's the thing.
Just because you're their entire job is to harass people and to like kill people and their dogs.
It's like, I have said before that as far as like Ian getting thrown in a cage for no reason, I feel more annoyed by the average person who just is apathetic about it than I feel about even the prosecution. Because like the prosecution, they have huge incentives. They're like pretty rich compared to the average person.
Oh yeah,
for the job that they have.
They have an organization backing them that has unlimited money, it seems.
And the other thing, but on the other hand, the cops, you live in the same house as me. You're absolutely immoral and disgusting to other human beings and doing the bidding of these people who you'll just be like, okay, I'm just doing my job, just doing whatever somebody tells me. Yeah. For what? To send your kids to public school in the same neighborhood that we all live in? Like, you're a freaking loser. Seriously, I just can't stand that. Like, I mean, it's not even like I'm trying to say, like, they'd be cooler if they had more money. It's just that, like, you are a disgusting person who would sell yourself out for almost nothing. Like, you're just a dog. You're the government's dog and slave. And you're an idiot.
Right, and the police profession, I mean, sure, in a free society, there would be police, but they'd be focused on actual crimes instead of just pulling people over for broken taillights or whatever. And the profession itself is a good profession. However, when it's run by a parasitic institution like a government or whatever, and it has a monopoly on protection services, it has no incentive to improve. It has no incentive to be better.
And they have every incentive to, if the government's like, take that person out. They're just like, yep, yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes,
just following orders.
Yep,
just
exactly.
Following orders, got to follow the law.
Like the other day, I went to go visit Ian, and I got in super late, all because of the stupid person who was letting me in, aka the cop.
Yeah.
He tried 40 keys right in front of me, over and over again. Just tried all 40 keys.
They're so dumb. Yeah. Honestly, I don't want to say that like prison guards, or what are they called? The correctional officers. I don't want to say that correctional officers are worse than regular cops, because I guess, well, maybe it's about even.
Yeah.
But they are so dumb and annoying.
You know what I mean?
Like,
you visited people in jail too, so you know what I'm talking about.
And I will say, well, I don't know, I only have a couple experiences, but I remember like they used to, when my ex-boyfriend was in jail, like maybe, I don't know, this was a while ago. I was like 18 or something, so it was a long time ago. But those people were the worst. Like, I feel like the county, like the state ones versus the federal ones, I feel like the county jails are way worse. Like, they're just, I don't know, they're just losers. And
Seriously.
They're just looking for reasons
to
not let you in. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they have all that power, and they're like, oh, I don't like the pair of pants you're wearing, so I can make it so you can't come in and see your loved one. It's like, are you serious? Like, this person is in jail, and their highlight of their day is seeing me.
Yes.
And I've done nothing wrong. I'm convicted of no crime, and I miss this person, and I want to go visit with them. And you're gonna, take issue with the fact that I'm not wearing the right color pants?
Yeah. It's just like imagine how powerless and lame and stupid they are in their real life.
That's the thing. Like, how much of a loser do you have to be you harass people for no reason just because you can?
It just goes to show that when people get a little power, it goes to their minds and they think they can exercise all this power and all this magical authority over people, when in reality they're just people with titles. And
so many teachers in my life were the same way, and they're government too. Like,
absolutely.
I went to public schools.
Yeah, I mean, public school teachers can be absolutely awful, and I do believe some of them are good. Like, I do know some public school teachers who like really try and are really like kind and nice, but there are some who are just. It's like, listen, if you hate children this much, you should get a different job.
Yeah, you really should.
Because some of them, like, seriously, it just seems like they hate children and they're just like victimized by these 30 plus kids that are in their class, and they're so naughty, and my life is so hard and I don't get paid enough money. And it's like this huge sob story that you always hear from public school teachers. And it's like, get a different job. If you hate your life this much, and if you're like, traumatizing all of these kids, and if you know what I mean, like, there were so many teachers that I felt like personally hated the students and would just do things just out of spite. And it's like, listen, lady, we're just kids. Like, we're literally just being kids. It's just, it's
and just
insane
imagine,
to me.
like, what kind of a person you'd have to be to want to, like, make a small child or even like a teenager feel bad about themselves.
Yeah.
Like, tell them they're stupid.
A bad person.
Yep, you'd have to be a bad person with a terrible life who hates themselves.
Yeah.
But
anyways,
we just kind of went off about government employees there and how power goes to their heads. But in this story, we're talking about how the U.S. Federal Highway Administration, they gave states 2 years to stop being funny on the highway. So when you're driving down the road and you see a sign that says, like, it's Christmas Day, right? And it says, look out for Santa's reindeer, don't get in a car accident. Just something stupid like that. I honestly, like, Nikki likes them. Usually they make me mad.
Normally, and like I said, normally I hate stuff like that. Like, I hate all of, like, the, I don't know. I'm not, like, a big, like, joke person, I guess, in that style. But for some reason, I don't know, when I see them, because you feel like it shouldn't be there, right? You're like, this shouldn't be allowed, right? So it kind of just gives me a little giggle.
Yeah.
And now they're actually taking it away.
I just find it sad that no humor is allowed while people are driving down the highway. It's like, why? Why is the government...
It's like, are they going to soon say that if you make a joke while you're in the passenger seat, it's a crime? It's the same exact thing. How could it be distracting to a driver?
I have no idea.
Like, the other day, me and my sister went and picked up my brother from the airport, and when we were driving him here, we were laughing so hard. Like, I was like gonna die because he's like,
what, you were enjoying your life?
And I didn't crash the car.
Yeah, that's not allowed. You can't enjoy your life.
You can't enjoy your life, Bonnie. The government says no.
It just shows what kind of people these people are.
Yeah, they just
the government has no sense of humor. They have no sense of life. They have no sense of freedom. They just want to make everybody homogenous and all the same.
Yep, you will be miserable and you will like it.
Yeah. It says, administration officials said overhead electronic signs with obscure meanings, references to pop culture, those intended to be funny, will be banned in 2026 because they can be misunderstood or distracting to drivers. The agency, which is part of the U.S. Department of Transportation, said signs should be simple, direct, brief, legible, and clear, and only be used for important information such as warning drivers of crashes ahead, adverse weather conditions, and traffic delays. Seatbelt reminders and warnings about the dangers of speeding or driving impaired are also allowed. Among those that will be disappearing are such messages as "Use ya blinka" in Massachusetts. That's pretty funny.
But we're not going to be able to read it if they don't spell it like that. I'm not going to understand if you use an ER instead of an AH.
Oh my God. It says, visiting in-laws, slow down, get there late from Ohio.
See, like, that's pretty funny.
That's
pretty funny. I mean,
even if you read it and you don't understand, it's just like, okay, the joke's just going to go over your head.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Are you going to turn around? Like, are you going to take a U-turn and hit somebody behind you trying to refigure it out? Like, no, you're not. I feel like there's never been an instance that this happened.
Does the article ever talk about how the government gathers this data on how distracted drivers how distracted these drivers are by spotting these funny signs.
See, that's what I wondered as soon as it made the claim that people are distracted by it. I said, like, has anyone ever died? Like, I really don't. I doubt it, but I'm not sure if it gets into that. It says another example is don't drive Star-Spangled Hammered from Pennsylvania.
Like, it's stupid, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you're on the highway. What better
Right.
do you have to do? You know what I mean?
Says Hocus Pocus, drive with focus from New Jersey, and hands on the wheel, not your meal from Arizona.
Oh, I don't like that one because I like to eat while I drive.
Me too.
Yeah.
I hate that it's illegal in some places, maybe all 50
Is it?
states.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't, but I mean,
I've
who
never
doesn't?
even known if it was illegal in any state I've ever presently been in because I don't care.
I don't care. I'm hungry, yeah.
I don't eat while I drive. I'm just telling you that right now.
Good.
Well, that's good. That's very safe of you, Riley.
Yeah, I'm very safe.
Arizona has more than 300 electronic signs above its highways. For the last 7 years, the State Department of Transportation has held a contest to find the funniest and most creative messages. Anyone could submit ideas, drawing more than 3,700 entries last year. The winners were seatbelts always pass a vibe check. That's pretty funny.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just a sign asking drivers to use turn signals. Okay, that one sucked.
Yeah, I know that one's not funny.
I almost didn't read it
maybe
right.
they should start like a law that instead of just banning funny, well, like they have to be funny.
Yeah, that would be more interesting. Then you can see how funny people can get, you know?
I don't know, because sometimes, not like I would drink and drive, but like when I see the funny DUI ones, I'm like, yeah, that makes me like really want to like take this more seriously. Not like I was going to do that in the first place, but like now I'm definitely not going to drink and drive because of this funny sign on the road.
Makes it feel more like it's a person trying to tell you something instead of the government issuing an order.
Yeah.
Like if it just says, obey, do not drink and drive.
Yeah, it's like no one, now that makes me want to.
Yeah, it's true. Says the humor part of it we kind of like, said State Rep David Cook, a Republican from Globe, told Phoenix, I guess that's Arizona, told Phoenix TV station ABC or CBS 5, I think in Arizona the majority of us do, if not all of us. He said he didn't understand the fuss. Why are you trying to have the federal government come in and tell us what we can do in our own state? Prime example that the federal government is not focusing on what they need to be.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty.
That's very true.
Actually a great point. It's like, you know, the entire world is in shambles, and they're like, yeah, you guys are being way too funny
on the highway.
Yeah.
How dare you?
And it's just like, I want to know what Riley is asking. Like, is it true that people are actually dying from this?
I doubt it.
I doubt it too. I think it's just a way for the government to remove humor from everything.
One thing Ian did tell me was that this Wall Street Journal one got into more detail about it. So let's see what they say about it. It tells us that they have the 2 years only. And it says, Sam Cole, Safety Communications Manager for Colorado's Department of Transportation, said that when he tells people what he does for work, all they remember are the road signs, which include quips such as one at Halloween, make mummy happy, buckle up. That one's terrible.
I don't like that.
I mean, it's nice wordplay, but...
Says, oh, you're the VMS guy, they'll tell Cole, referring to the variable message signs, as they are known. I never knew that.
Yep.
It says the Federal Highway Administration lays out its position in the newest edition of a 1,100 plus page manual. Flipping to page 519 finds guidance stating humorous signs might be understood by only a limited segment of road users. Okay, well if you don't get the joke, like it's not going to kill you.
That's the thing. It's like the only people that aren't going to understand is like really, really old people who probably shouldn't be driving.
Like the vibe check thing, like old people might be like, what? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to stop? Am I supposed to turn around?
They're like,
just kidding.
Oh crap! I missed the vibe check. I gotta go back.
Yeah. Oh my god, no.
Well, this is we're like obviously like clearly joking. Like I don't think that's the case.
They'll just be like, what does that mean? And then they'll stop. So I mean, not stop their car, but they'll stop thinking about it. But it does look like we actually have a caller in line. So I'm gonna go to Alu here in New Hampshire. Alu, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hi guys, thanks for taking my call. I am very far behind on Free Talk Live, probably around 34 trillion episodes behind. So
I know I haven't heard from you in a while.
I know, because I'm busy with the baby and a million other projects and working on the next book.
Understandable. Keep men busy.
The First Amendment book, it's over 70,000 words already, and it might come out within the next few weeks or months. It might be finished, and then I'll review it and edit it one last time. So it might actually be here soon by the spring. It'll be my longest book, and it'll be hopefully the most comprehensive book on First Amendment violations in the universe. But anyway, a few comments on the last few shows a while ago. Someone mentioned that the autopsies a few nights ago, I think Mickey mentioned, they were talking about autopsies and organs, and they were asking about the brain. The one autopsy I saw in paramedic school was like 10 years ago now, and they do cut out everything, because she asked if you have to remove it from the skull. You do have to cut out the brain. What they do is, I think everything is they take it out of where it is. So they took the brain out of the skull and then slice it up in a thin slices, maybe like a centimeter or 2 centimeters thick, and then that way they can see all the slices. They can see if there's any, plaque, injury, lesion, whatever, clots. They do the same thing, I think, with the heart and all the other organs. So they would have to take it out, and that's probably standard of every autopsy. And then I think Richie Rich, as the contrarian he always has to be, which is fine, he said that he does not want to be an organ donor because he is a crazy conspiracy theorist that believes that if you're an organ donor, people in the hospital or EMS may try less vigorously to resuscitate you because they want to harvest organs. I think that, I don't know if that has any validity. It might. I think it's an interesting argument, but I would argue the flip side also might be true, in that pretty much the way it works with like paramedics and doctors in the ER is, as soon as they find out you're an organ donor, if they look at your ID card and everything, I didn't really make it a habit of pulling out wallets and looking at licenses. As a paramedic, I kind of have to run the cardiac arrest and stuff.
Yeah.
Some others I've seen, maybe police do that, maybe some EMTs. I haven't really done that much on cardiac arrests, but at some point, you look at it if you're going to terminate the CPR, and pretty much what I'm getting at is, if they see that you're an organ donor, that would actually make them work harder to save you and harder to keep doing CPR, to keep blood going, to keep you alive. So pretty much what we're talking about is even if you're brain dead, good CPR, ventilations, and all the other stuff they do will keep blood oxygenated and circulated to the organs and keep it alive and the organs in perfect shape by doing perfect CPR until you go to a hospital, and it has to be a fairly large hospital. Like not a local community hospital. It would be here. It would be Dartmouth, or maybe CMC, or otherwise Mass Gen or something in Boston. And then they could do the harvesting and they could take the organs. But you have to have perfect CPR. Like, in order to keep those organs perfused, you have to be doing very, very good CPR. So people know. I mean, I think paramedics and doctors know, if they're an organ donor, instead of like most cardiac arrests we work, like outside of a hospital, like 1 or 2% will ever come back to life. They're dead. Getting them back to life is very, very difficult.
Well, you had more you wanted to say. You had more you wanted to get into that, and that's pretty interesting, because I have also had like trepidation about being an organ donor, and I have some questions for you coming up if you want to stay on. 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United States has officially designated the Houthi rebels in Yemen as a terror organization. The move comes after a spate of attacks in past weeks by the Iran-backed militants on ships in the Red Sea, assaults the group claims are in solidarity with Palestinians amid the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. The US and its allies have responded in recent days with strikes on Houthi targets in an effort to protect freedom of navigation. From Washington, Benji Hire reports.
The Houthis were labelled as terrorists by Donald Trump's administration, but that was reversed by current Secretary of State Antony Blinken in 2021 as a way to make it easier to get food imports and humanitarian aid into Yemen. Wednesday's decision to relist them means the group's members will be banned from US soil, and American financial institutions will have to freeze Houthi funds. The White House insists addressing the ongoing threat by the rebels on commercial vessels in a vital shipping corridor is a problem that Western partners must address together to minimize the impact on the global economy and ensure the conflict in the Middle East doesn't escalate further. But the Houthis are vowing not to back down, pledging to retaliate by, quote, burning America's battleships. Benji Hire, Washington.
The designation will take effect 30 days from now. Meanwhile, Italy's foreign minister says his country is working alongside France and Germany on a joint European military deployment to protect shipping in the Red Sea. Antonio Tajani was speaking at a press conference in the Italian capital where he set out Italy's priorities for its G7 presidency this year. Giles Gibson has more from Rome.
The Italian foreign minister says the aim is to expand on an existing mission in the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Iran, which started in 2020. Tajani said foreign ministers from the European Union will discuss a new deployment in the Red Sea when they meet next week, and that he's optimistic it will get the green light. Giles Gibson, Rome.
The judge presiding over Donald Trump's defamation trial has told the former president to keep his voice down. Mr. Trump was found liable for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll in May, and she's now seeking additional damages. William Denslow reports from New York.
Taking the witness stand, E. Jean Carroll said that Donald Trump's accusations ended the world she'd been living in. The writer says that she sometimes receives hundreds of messages online per day accusing her of lying. The former president has consistently denied sexually abusing her. The judge says this trial is not a do-over of last year's case, but is purely squared on whether Carroll is entitled to additional damages. In a fiery exchange during proceedings Wednesday, the judge threatened to remove Trump from court if he didn't keep his voice down. Trump's response: "I would love it." William Denslow, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. US President Joe Biden is meeting members of Congress at the White House to try to come to a resolution on major security spending that includes aid for Ukraine and Israel. Republican representatives want more security on the US border before agreeing to his requests. Caroline Malone reports from Washington.
It's the first face-to-face discussion between President Biden and congressional leaders in months on what the White House sees as critical funding for Ukraine and Israel. Biden asked for $100 billion as part of a package months ago, but there's been no agreement from the House, with representatives wanting a border crackdown. Negotiations have been ongoing for weeks. Republicans are pushing to restrict the use of what's known as humanitarian parole that gives asylum to Afghans and Ukrainians fleeing war. The White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre said, "We want to see a bipartisan agreement." Caroline Malone, Washington.
The Princess of Wales is in hospital following planned abdominal surgery. A statement released by Kensington Palace said the surgery was successful and that the princess would likely remain in hospital for 2 weeks to recover. From London, Simon Gaitan reports.
The statement released by Kensington Palace on Wednesday announced that Catherine, Princess of Wales, had undergone planned abdominal surgery at a private London hospital on Tuesday. The palace said that the surgery was successful and that it expected the princess would remain in hospital for 10 to 14 days of recovery. It added that based on the latest medical advice, Catherine would be unlikely to return to official duties until after Easter. On behalf of the princess, the statement apologised for the postponement of her engagements. Simon Gaitan, London.
And that's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
As Sao Paulo struggled to dig out after last week's devastating earthquake, I'm just praying and helping. One group was left with no one to care for them.
There is nowhere for these homeless dogs to go. There is no food to give them. There is no clean water. These dogs are going to starve to death.
I have to do the humane thing. I have to put these dogs down. O'Brady Shaw is the only journalist compassionate enough to do what has to be done.
Put down 50 or 60 dogs today. I didn't want to.
Let me help you!
But their fate would have been much worse if I hadn't done it.
It's better this way.
O'Brady Shaw goes where other reporters won't and does the jobs other reporters can't.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Gut Check with O'Brady Shaw. Live from Sao Paulo, tomorrow night, only on the Onion News Network.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Sorry about that. I don't know why the music sounded like that. I hope it didn't sound like that on the air, but it's Free Talk Live, and for a second I thought I was going to have to call somebody, but Riley reminded me the bumper music will go away, so it went away. And it's Free Talk Live. You can call in at 603-283-6160. Something goes wrong every other day.
It sure seems that way. You know, Ian has been in the cage for a while, and here we are trying to do a show, and stuff happens.
Yeah, it's really weird. Now we have our dead air going off. It's
that was going off from before. I don't know if that had to do with the music being muted.
Weird. Oh well.
I'm gonna assume we're on the air.
Yeah, we're on the. I'm pretty sure we're on the air now. That was super weird though, but really weird. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number. But we have. Oh, and it's in the studio with you tonight. You've got me, Bonnie,
Riley,
and Nikki.
We do have Alu on the. On hold with us. So Alu from New Hampshire from libertyblock.com, or is it thelibertyblock.com?
Nope, just libertyblock.com.
Libertyblock.com. You're on Free Talk Live, and in the last segment you were telling us that they do take the brain out during an autopsy. Why? Because they were talking about this, I think, on Sunday's show.
Yeah, there was I'll give a really brief recap of what we were talking about. There was a prisoner in Alabama. This has happened twice that the news has reported on. But the first guy, he was missing a heart. So his family was suing because I don't know how they noticed he didn't have a heart. I don't know if the funeral director or, the coroner from the funeral home noticed, but somehow they noticed he wasn't having, they somehow misplaced his heart. And then there was a second guy who most of his major organs were missing.
Whoa.
And then we had some questions about specifics about the autopsy, which in the previous segment, that's what Alu was kind of filling us in on because I had some questions. Captain and I both had some questions. And I tried to kind of Google it and find the answers, but I didn't get a chance to see one in nursing school. And I'm not very familiar with that. I'm on the other side of medicine.
I was kind of wondering, like, if you saw one. I was like, I don't know how you survive after that. Like, if I watch somebody's brain, even if they're dead, get cut out of their body, I don't know how I'd go to regular life again. How do you do that, Alu?
Well, we get used to all that stuff, and there's a great joke that I think is as relevant here as anywhere. They say physicians know a lot but do very little. Surgeons do a lot but know very little. And pathologists, who are medical examiners, know a lot and do a lot, but it's always too late when they get there.
Yeah.
Hey, are you on the highway?
That's
You better
great.
not be being funny on the highway.
What's that?
You better not be telling funny jokes on the highway. I'm just kidding, Alu.
I would never tell funny jokes on the highway. No, I got home now. So there are a lot of other things that I needed to get to, but real quick, there were a few great bills that Matt Santonastasso, who I think is the front runner for the Champion of Liberty Award from the Liberty Block Annual Award. I think he's the front runner for that this year.
Nice.
He proposed a bunch of great bills. One was to get rid of the de facto red flag law that's in the restraining orders. So him and I had a great time in the committee with that. On the CJ committee on Friday, there were all the secession bills, so the two bills for secession on Friday. And I think Matt and maybe Brandon Finney and some others proposed two other bills, House Bill 1237 and 1238, that are kind of small issues, but somewhat important to me, that would both restrict police officers in general from using undercover cars, or like the stealth ghost cars, they call it, black on black, where you can't see it unless you're an eagle eye with a bright light from 2 inches away. You can't see it's black on black, it says police. So it's pretty much undercover. From using those for regular traffic enforcement to pull you over. So 1237 and House Bill 1238 said all police vehicles being used for regular duties, like not like undercover investigations, narcotics, all regular vehicles have to have those license plates that say, like, police, municipal government. They can't be, regular plates unless they're doing super undercover operations, there's an exemption. So
I love
still,
that, though.
even with that exemption, the committee, both bills are good. So I testified in both bills at the same time. The state police sent the captain, who's well-spoken. He's pretty much their lobbyist. They sent him to oppose the bills. A few others opposed the bills, but me and Nat, I think, and a few others were supporting the bills. And even with the exemptions, still, they were really concerned, and I was holding Abel, and one of the state reps said, "Oh, when your precious son turns 18 and he wraps around a tree because he has testosterone and he drives 180 miles per hour, wouldn't you rather him be pulled over for that?" So I said I don't like, traffic stops. They're mostly BS, except for like really reckless driving with a clear and present danger. All the other traffic stops are BS and could be abolished. So let's minimize them by minimizing, especially undercover cops doing them. And so I said I'm fine with, cops pulling over for reckless driving if they're to kill someone, but pulling people over for having an expired inspection sticker, like I got pulled over the other day in Concord, and pulling someone over for their light bulb shining on their license plate is out. That's a primary offense in New Hampshire. You'd be pulled over for that. So I said, let's have the bill just not let police that are undercover do traffic stops for totally BS victimless crimes. And if they believe that someone's going to die imminently because someone's driving 200 miles per hour and shooting out the windows, then they can still make a traffic stop in undercover cars by turning on their lights. Yes. So they had no answer for that, obviously, because, a lot of them on the committee were statists. But we'll see what happens with those bills. But everyone here should email the committee. It's House Criminal Justice Committee at whateveralleged.com. I can send you the emails, and if you go to Liberty Block and our Rumble, Odyssey, YouTube, and all that stuff, we have like a 1-minute video that shows how to do activism. In like 1 minute, you can make your voice heard and say you support these bills, and even write a little blurb if you want for the committee. And I would say email the committee. I sent a long email last night, and I got a response from the chairman this morning about an amendment to the bill saying, let's have an exemption for those who are really a serious threat. If the cop believes someone's going to die in the next minute, you can pull them over. But otherwise, you cannot make traffic stops if you're in an undercover car. And he emailed me back saying, I think he said, we'll consider that amendment. Sounds pretty freaking reasonable. So everyone here, if every listener emailed them supporting the bills, maybe they'll pass.
So just to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, the bill that you're talking about is the same one that would make it to where they can't drive around undercover, but you want them to amend it to say that they can't pull anyone over unless somebody is indirectly about to die?
The bill has some exceptions as it is, but the bill, House Bill 1237, says undercover police cars can't do regular traffic enforcement. They can't be doing traffic stops in undercover cars, which I believe some states already have that prohibition. It makes sense. If someone's undercover, they shouldn't be sneaking up on you and catching you with some BS victimless crime traffic stop. Also, someone on the committee, I believe, one of the reps said she had an issue where she was in mass, and someone pulled over, and I think it was a fake cop, pulled over, and she's a young girl, pulls over in the dark, and it's just a guy with a gun, says she's a cop, and there's a young lady, and we all know how that ends. So, and I mean, real cops do, assault people too, but, I've heard plenty of stories of both real cops and fake cops doing that, but they said, what should they do? They asked the state cop, the captain of the state police there, what should someone do if she's not comfortable? And he said what they all say, go drive, keep driving to a well-lit area, put on your hazard lights, and keep driving till you get to an area you're comfortable and call 911. People have done that, and if you don't stop right away for cops, they will pull out a gun and either punish you and or shoot you if you don't stop right away. So
absolutely. And
I've said it, it's BS.
I've actually heard cops say that before in traffic stops where someone went to find a well-lit area or whatever because they were in an undercover car and they didn't feel comfortable. And then the cop came at them all aggressive, pointing a gun in their face like, why didn't you stop immediately?
Yep.
And it's like, okay, because I didn't feel safe. So they'll say stuff like that. Oh, just, this is the solution. But they don't actually like that solution. They want immediate obedience or else they will threaten to kill you.
The cops want us to be obedient little puppies, to fawn over them and obey them at every word.
You must obey immediately. Do not insult their authority or they will kill you.
Yep.
And that's really messed up, but it's definitely a good bill. Or so that is not just the bill, that's the amendment to the bill that you've proposed. So you want people to email...
Well, the amendment I proposed was saying that to make the bill easier to pass, I would say that let's have a real clear exemption saying undercover cops can pull people over as long as their affidavit and their dash cam demonstrates beyond a reasonable doubt that the person was driving ultra severely dangerously and they presented a clear and present danger and they were going to kill someone. And if the affidavit of the cop doesn't support that and the dash cam footage and everything else support that record that the person was driving dangerously, then the cop has to be fired and punished harshly and imprisoned or whatever. So that's what I said. I think it's a good compromise that would make everyone happy. It will have some accountability for cops who lie and who violate people and violate the law, but also it would allow the bill to pass because it would not say, oh, you could drive drunk. And the cops, the chief of police lobbyist and the state cop lobbyist, a lot of them were saying, well, this will make our job harder because what if we see someone drunk, we can't pull them over? Just the typical stuff of imagining the craziest scenarios of what if we see a drunk guy driving, speeding, and shooting out the window. If I'm in my undercover car, I can't pull him over. And what if you were in your regular car driving home and you don't have any lights or sirens? Then you definitely can't pull them over because you're in your regular civilian car. So, it's all these ridiculous stuff. But I think the bill could have a prayer maybe if all the listeners pressure them.
Well,
yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. So which committee is this?
The House Criminal Justice and Public Safety.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Alu. Were those the two topics that you wanted to call in about?
I got a billion, but we'll get to more the next time. That's fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your call, Alu. And now we also have, surprisingly, Sarah from New Mexico back on with us. Sarah, what's on your mind? We haven't heard from you in a really long time.
I know. I was just curious. I had a bunch of stuff going on in my life. I almost bought a new house, and we were doing open houses and looking around and everything. So it was I kind of got sidetracked. It was taking all of my energy, and I think that house. Remember that house guest that remember I talking about the house guest that we're trying to get rid of? And
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, remember that? They kind of glom onto you, and I think that's why we were trying to look around at other houses. We were telling her, we looked at other houses. We're going to buy one any day, get your stuff out, And then I think we were doing that, and then she vanished. I don't know. She might be in jail or something. They put themselves in jail for the winter time to stay warm.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that.
I've heard of that,
Yeah, you heard that, right? And then they'll tell you. I don't know if that's what happened, but I think we were on a big house hunt for a while, and then it kind of fell through, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, that pest is kind of gone. So anyway, I got all discombobulated. So I gained myself back enough to call you guys, and kind of like a therapy. You guys are like a therapy in a way, because I almost got hit by a car.
Wow.
I thought, hey, I gotta call those guys and feel better by talking about it.
What happened?
What happened?
Well, it's always the same thing. I'm on the San Mateo, Montgomery. It's like the busiest intersection of the whole entire state. And I stepped out, and I saw the cars coming, and they're supposed to stop. And then he barely stopped, like 3 feet, like slamming on his brake, just gave me a heart attack. And I should have turned around and beat his car in or kicked his tires or whatever, but he was yelling stuff at me while I was crossing the sidewalk. I'm thinking to myself, he almost hit me and killed me and broke my hips or something, and here he is telling me off. The whole time I was at the crosswalk. I'm like, this is wrong. Anybody else, they would have probably went over. If there was a guy, somebody probably decked him, dragged him out of the car. They do that stuff, right?
Yeah, I've heard of things happening like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, so I don't know, but so I called the city councilors and city engineers or whatever, but it's always the same. They drive like this here, and I just learned to walk down like 1.5 miles and cross at another intersection on Monroe, the other street that's more not as at the intersection, but I'm still just amazed. Everybody just gets hit by a car and nobody cares. It's just amazing here in New Mexico. I think we're number 1 per capita. I think we're down to 4 pedestrians for every 10,000. It used to be like 3 pedestrians for every 10,000, but I don't know. You guys help me out a lot. I mean, because you sort out my problems.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad we sort your problems out for you.
Yeah, I know, because what do you do when they're desperate? These people are desperate. They won't leave you alone. They won't take their stuff out, and I still got
that sucks so bad.
Bunch of tons. I mean, and you're stuck with them, and they vanish.
Yeah.
And they left all their stuff behind?
Yeah, well, the apartment manager was going to throw all their stuff out anyway into the garbage. They wound up putting it all on us. We got a desk, a futon, a full-size mattress, and a small table, and then a whole bunch of other luggage and stuff like that. It's like a whole room full of stuff, and they just dumped it off. So we're pretty much stuck with it. But one told me that if I didn't sign a contract, they said we will hold on to your stuff for a year, and then we didn't sign it or date any contracts. We could just give it away, and they can't do nothing to you, right? You're not liable if you did.
They're saying that you have to hold on to their stuff for a year. I don't know what you meant by that.
No, it was just all verbal. At first she says, we'll get the stuff out in 1 week, and it turned into like 5 months already.
Yeah, I would throw it away.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next.
We have somebody working on the problem that happened with the problem with the thing. So there was a problem with the bumper music, and somebody's working on it, so that's all that noise was. Sorry, Sarah. But so, did you have anything else to say, maybe about the car accident or anything?
Well, I was lucky. I will tell you, I never got hit by a car in 24 years, not even once. Like I never got abducted by an alien. Not even once here. That's amazing. It's a feat.
Have you met any aliens in New Mexico?
No, but I went to Roswell, and the Roswell, New Mexico, and then their McDonald's did look like a spaceship. They made it
really.
Yeah, they did.
See that.
That was amazing. Like it was like a spaceship, like all metal thing, and they made it look like a spaceship. McDonald's, and I thought that was pretty groovy.
Sarah,
yeah, it's pretty funny.
Do you know anyone in New Mexico who claims to have been abducted by an alien since you live there?
Well, something? What's funny is I met somebody like that at the bus stop, and he told me I got abducted by the alien.
Whoa.
That's what he told me.
Interesting.
And then he said all of us, our ancestors are from other planets. Originally, we were shipped out from our ancestors were all planted here. I don't know what he was going on about, and then he disappeared, and he came back, and I was like, But I think he was really telling the truth.
Wow.
He said he was abducted. But yeah, it really is. But I don't know where. Probably in New Mexico. Where else, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard crazier things, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely...
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. Bitrefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 13th through the 16th. Forkfest.party.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United States has officially designated the Houthi rebels in Yemen as a terror organization. The move comes after a spate of attacks in past weeks by the Iran-backed militants on ships in the Red Sea, assaults the group claims are in solidarity with Palestinians amid the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. The US and its allies have responded in recent days with strikes on Houthi targets in an effort to protect freedom of navigation. From Washington, Benji Hire reports.
The Houthis were labelled as terrorists by Donald Trump's administration, but that was reversed by current Secretary of State Antony Blinken in 2021 as a way to make it easier to get food imports and humanitarian aid into Yemen. Wednesday's decision to relist them means the group's members will be banned from US soil, and American financial institutions will have to freeze Houthi funds. The White House insists addressing the ongoing threat by the rebels on commercial vessels in a vital shipping corridor is a problem that Western partners must address together to minimize the impact on the global economy and ensure the conflict in the Middle East doesn't escalate further. But the Houthis are vowing not to back down, pledging to retaliate by, quote, burning America's battleships.
Meanwhile, Italy's foreign minister says his country is working alongside France and Germany on a joint European military deployment to protect shipping in the Red Sea. Antonio Tajani was speaking at a press conference in the Italian capital where he set out Italy's priorities for its G7 presidency this year. Giles Gibson has more from Rome.
The Italian foreign minister says the aim is to expand on an existing mission in the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Iran, which started in 2020. Tajani said foreign ministers from the European Union will discuss a new deployment in the Red Sea when they meet next week, and that he's optimistic it will get the green light. Giles Gibson, Rome.
The judge presiding over Donald Trump's defamation trial has told the former president to keep his voice down. Mr. Trump was found liable for sexually abusing and defaming E. Jean Carroll in May, and she's now seeking additional damages. William Denslow reports from New York.
Taking the witness stand, E. Jean Carroll said that Donald Trump's accusations ended the world she'd been living in. The writer says that she sometimes receives hundreds of messages online per day accusing her of lying. The former president has consistently denied sexually abusing her. The judge says this trial is not a do-over of last year's case, but is purely squared on whether Carroll is entitled to additional damages. In a fiery exchange during proceedings Wednesday, the judge threatened to remove Trump from court if he didn't keep his voice down. Trump's response: "I would love it."
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. And 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. That's 603-283-6160. And I wanted to tell you that Free Talk Live is brought to you by Forkfest, happening June 13th through the 16th at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Forkfest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. ForkFest is decentralized, so there is no ticket cost and no one is in charge. For more information and to connect with other attendees, you can visit the unofficial website, forkfest.party. That's forkfest.party. And with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Riley,
and Nikki.
And we're working through technicalities as we speak, so, it's been a fun show.
I think it's actually completely fixed now, so let's go to the phones. It looks like we have an unscreened caller on Free Talk Live. What's your name, caller? Going once? Going twice? Okay, looks like we have a second unscreened caller on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind, caller? What's your name?
Oh, I am Ryan. I'm from Portland, Oregon.
Oh, hey, Ryan.
Yeah, I was curious. I've been kind of out of the loop for a while.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with Ian? Like, when's he gonna get out? Is he gonna get out? Like, you don't have to give me the whole freaking 9 yards, but
he went in for 8 years, but I mean, they don't do 8 years. They do like 85% of that. Plus, there's now FSA, which takes off like 6 months, and he's appealing, of course. He got convicted of 8 charges, and then after the jury did that, the judge threw one out completely after the jury's decision.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's cool. He's got 8 years, but it's cool that the judge dropped a charge at least.
Yeah, definitely brought down.
What's 85% of 8 years?
So it's probably looking more like 4 to 5 years, based on what I've heard he can expect with good behavior and all of the stuff. I think, and I do think they do all of that on purpose to kind of make it feel a lot heavier, right? So when you hear like, when you're looking at 40 years, like that sounds really heavy, and I think that is all part of the game to get people to take plea deals.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Ian doesn't play that game because he took it to trial all the way. And now he's appealing that. So
but he was looking at like up to like I think it's 26 years.
Oh, yeah, he was looking
I thought
for
it was
a long
40
time
for some reason, but even 26. I mean,
I
it's just so.
It was like 420 before they dropped some charges right before the trial, and then
it's insane. Like that is so unwarranted because it's just really for a victimless crime. He didn't hurt anybody, for non-violent crime, non-violent offender. It is really, really mind-blowing. And when I tell people this story who aren't really like, liberty-minded or whatever, just my normal friends, when I kind of tell them this story, I mean, people are dumbfounded. Like people,
oh yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah, they can't believe it. And anyone who even knows Ian, I mean, it's hard to believe. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And all the transcripts are on freekeen.com. It's not like we're hiding information. Anyone who wants to watch every single word that was said during the trial can go there. Ian posted it. Like we have nothing to hide.
Oh yeah, of course.
So
he's able to communicate fairly well, like his phones work and stuff.
Yeah, he has a tablet actually, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, yeah.
Is he in federal prison?
Right now he's in county jail, but he's going to go to federal prison. They're just holding him there for a long time. Yeah, he has a tablet in jail. It's not that bad of a jail.
Yeah, all things considered, right? So, Ryan, are you familiar with the crypto6.com or crypto6.com?
I am, yeah. I've
okay,
seen
cool.
video and stuff.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's a great place to go to find out a lot of it. I don't know how well updated that is with a lot of the information, but I think it has been being kept updated with like a lot of the new developments, but at the very least, I mean, it has like the full story.
Yeah, and I watched the videos, and what was the video? The filmmaker made a little video about it, and then Arya screaming, and it was really quite impactful.
Yeah.
Hard. Yeah. Anyway, cool. Thanks. Give Ian my best, and God bless you all. Have fun.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan.
Bless you too.
Thank you, Ryan. You have a good rest of your day, and thanks for calling. It looks like we have David from New Mexico on the line. David, what's in your mind?
Oh, billions of things, just like I was snack bar, duh. That's crazy.
What? Snack bar?
I don't know. I forgot. I forgot already. I'm calling you live from the cowboy hot tub out here in New Mexico, where the cars try to run the people over all the time. And a long time ago, the little old lady, not from Pasadena, but from Albuquerque, tried to run over me, and I had my infant son in the stroller, and that that B word, she tried to run us over. Little old lady. I don't think she was even in her right mind. I don't know what's going on with these crazy drivers.
So,
sounds like New Mexico.
Was that you? Was that you that did that, David?
Did what?
Run people over?
Almost hit Sarah. You're there too, right?
Well, I tried to run over Sarah many times, but she's too fast. She's too wise for that. She got lots of experience.
Tried to take out one communist. Very American.
Pardon?
You're a good American
Yeah.
trying to take out a communist.
That's right. A good American, man. Good American. That's what cowboy's supposed to do, man.
That's so mean. I don't even know why I said
mean
it.
at all, man. That's the way of the West, man. So, I think those. I think today. I think on that their what is it? Kotex Bloody Mess radio out of Golden Showers, Arizona. I think I heard that afternoon jive guy on his program that comes on just before you. I think I heard him say that this is your last day on that Kotex Bloody Mess radio from Golden Showers, Arizona. I don't know what's wrong with them people. It's crazy. They're replacing you with that really annoying, almost annoying as a New Mexico cowboy accent, but that really annoying Kate Dilly Dally that can't even talk more than one word without taking a pause.
It's so weird. You told us about her before. But you did call in and complain to them?
I complain every day about every time they bring it up on the afternoon jive guy radio program Monday through Friday just before you. I bring it up every time they bring it up that they're dropping Free Talk Live and they're replacing it with Dilly Dally. I bring it up every time and complain.
Well, thank you so much for that. If people want to hear us on their local radio station, anything like that,
call your
be
program
like David.
directors.
Yeah, call the program director at the station.
So I think this rinky-dink little Kotex radio, I think they're too rinky-dink to even have a program director. I think the afternoon jive guy himself may be as close a thing that they have to a program director, and that ain't much. So I don't know what to say.
Well, we appreciate your support either way, David. Did you have anything else on your mind?
No, I got nothing. Well, actually, I got billions of things, just like I was snack bar. But no, that's okay. We'll let somebody else have a chance.
I know.
I'm back to cowboy hot tubbing.
You're somehow making fun of Alu. He has a cowboy hat. He's a cowboy. He said even though he's from New York, he refuses to be a Yankee.
I appreciate that. I respect that.
So we also have Ricky from the common state of Pennsylvania. Ricky, what's on your mind?
Thank you,
Commonwealth. Did I say common state?
Yes. It is the Commonwealth, no doubt there, Miss Bonnie. Brother Riley, Sister Nikki, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Ricky?
All right. Well, I was wondering if I was going to get on, considering the technical gremlins tonight, no doubt.
Yeah.
But Brother Riley, I wanted to talk to you, actually. As you probably know all too well, I have this now finally sealed bet with Brother Richie, as you well know.
Yeah.
Right. It took 3 calls between the captain and Miss Bonnie, but we finally got it. Now, just to reiterate for all the other listeners, the way the bet finally finalized out. Now, I probably screwed myself on pushing this one a little high, which was the gas price is going to go up to $10 in July of 2025. Now, that was the first bet. Then the second bet was going to be that the dollar will fall by the end of 2025. That we agreed on. And then the third bet, because Richie got the brilliant idea, we're going to break them into 3 bets, was that we will go into economic oblivion by the end of the first quarter of 2026. We finally agreed on that. Now, I'm the one that suggested we use Dash. Now, I did speak to someone quite a while back from Dash. Now, this is why I'm speaking to you. Now, I've never made any cryptocurrency purchases of any kind, and I figured this would be a great way. Now, the bet was 5 Dash per bet. So I guess that's roughly around $150 per bet. Now, I wanted to see if you had any, to somebody that's basically not a novice to technology or anything of that, of course, but to cryptocurrency in general. Any suggestions on what a good wallet is to use for Dash, and generally some tips to get me rolling?
So,
Brother Riley.
I use an iPhone, and since I'm blind,
I use an Android. Is that going to be a conflict?
No, it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, I'm sure there's a Dash wallet on the Google Play Store. I'm not familiar with Android or its operating system or the screen reading software TalkBack. I'm not familiar with that software.
Well, I'm actually quite familiar with that. What's nice about it is they totally ripped off Windows Phone 10 system. So it's actually a very beautiful thing. It works extremely well.
That's good to know. It's good to know.
Yeah, it is. Actually, they ripped the one UI ripped off Windows Phone 10's UI, too. It's really fascinating. Everybody said Windows Phone is dead. And they were very happy in July of 17, but now everybody's got the same UI. It's really fascinating. But anyways, continue on. So the wallet you're not sure about, so that's fine.
I mean, you can search the Google Play Store and see if there is a Dash wallet. I know on the Apple Store there is, and I use the Dash wallet itself. If you want to get Dash yourself, you'll have to go through an exchange called, you'll probably have to go through an exchange to buy Dash, or find someone in your local area that can sell you Dash.
Any exchange that you could recommend that'd be legit?
I think the only exchange I can think of right now is Coinbase, but they're going to require you to scan ID and that sort of stuff. I don't know offhand what exchanges would be useful if you don't want to do know your customer requirements.
What's that?
I don't know of any exchanges that would be helpful if you don't want to go through scanning your ID and uploading those documents.
Well, I mean, it's obviously, I mean, is that what it's going to come down to? I mean, one thing we did agree on, that the bet doesn't need to be made till February 2025. Now, I threw that one out there. Richie liked that because he can save on money as far as the price going up.
Right.
You know, but I mean, so that's what it's going to come down to. I mean, probably. Now, when you say scan it, basically scan your ID they want and upload it. And
yeah, you'll need to take a picture of the front and back of your ID and upload it. I had to have someone help me do that.
Somebody will do it for me there, Brother Riley. Because as you well know, Richard from the Commonwealth went blind back in 20.
Well, I've been blind all of my life, so I know.
Well, you know
all of these things.
You know, can I tell you something?
Sure.
Well, okay. I think we pretty much. I mean, is there any more on the cryptocurrency? There's something I did want to ask you. Anybody want to add on that?
I don't have anything else to add now.
Well, here, let me ask you something. You were born blind?
Yes.
See, as you well know, you probably heard my story. Brother Ian actually leaked it out by accident because I never wanted to talk about it because I never wanted anything to add or take away from anything I said because my stuff would tend to be too serious. But see, I was born with retinitis pigmentosa. I take it you're familiar with it.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with it. I don't have that personally, but I'm familiar with it.
Beyond being, it makes you wonder, you know, I saw, I mean, I know you do the digest, so you probably heard the call a while back where I talked about my progression. See, I was damn near blind by the time I called into the show the first time, which I believe was maybe around 14. And believe it or not, the first person I talked to was Christopher Cantwell. And I actually thought it was Brother Ian. I don't even know how the hell I ended up on the damn show for the life of me to this day. But see, the fact of the matter is, you know, I was always legally blind. And the fact of the matter is, you know, it's funny, I talk to people, and I'm going to ask you a question. You never saw. Now, I did, but I always saw poorly. That was 2400 from, you know, 2012 up until lights out, you know, in 20. But let me ask you something, Brother Riley.
Sure.
I got different points of view on this, and I talked to another person at RP. Now, he's older than me. He's in his 60s. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, you never saw before. Do you want to see?
So, I've actually... When I was younger, I had vision in my left eye, so I could read large print. I could see color. It's actually really deteriorated. I do have glaucoma in that eye. I'm supposed to be treating it with eye drops, but, you know, I'm kind of lazy. And
so what do you now? Are you completely blind?
No, I do have light perception still in my left eye, so I can kind of tell when it's light and dark.
You're right at where I'm at because I have a tiny little speck up in the upper right-hand corner of my right eye. And the only thing nice about me is I'm what they call blind but not detached. Okay. So I'm sure you understand what I mean by that.
I do not.
I do not. Go ahead and tell us.
What that means is, imagine that the retina, instead of millions, has 100 nerve endings in each. I have like less than 10. So basically, the retina exists, but it's like useless. The only thing nice about it is my eyes didn't turn gray.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you did see. Now, the question is that I had for you, do you want to see, would you want to see, say at the level I saw at 2,400? I have a reason for asking you this.
That's a good question. Part of me would love to see again, but at the same time, I would have to relearn a lot of things if I were to be able to see again. I have to learn how to function in a world where I could see, because I'm so used to functioning without eyes, without regular sight. So
wow, that's actually a really interesting way.
How long have you been at this level?
I've been at this level for quite some time. I couldn't tell you. I'd say maybe over 10 years.
Okay, so, I mean, the fact of the matter is we're talking 10, and now we're talking, upwards of 4 years. So we're not that much apart. So here's my answer. Now, the reason why I mentioned this is a man that's actually part of the support group. Now, I don't need support, but I used to go just to possibly help out others. Now, he had RP, like I mentioned. Now, he would not tell me the reason why he does not want to see ever again. He had RP. See, my answer is I do. See, to me, it was very funny because I was progressively going blind throughout my whole life. And one of the things I learned very quickly when I was hit 2,400 is I said, Commonwealth, he said, do not trust your eyes because your eyes can deceive you. Now, the funny thing is I did testing on Windows Phone 10, and I could still see then at 2,400 when I was doing that. I used to navigate with my left hand with all 4 fingers, And the fact of the matter is, I'm going to tell you something, Brother Riley. If the opportunity arises, definitely go for it. Because, see, to me, going from 2,400 to going blind, to me, there was really no transition especially. It was very, very smooth. So my theory is, it's funny. It kind of reminds me of what somebody said to me, because at one time when I was, like I said, very bad, this is very early on here in PA, using weed, because I used to smoke weed all the time to enhance my vision, and it worked very well.
Wow.
And,
that's interesting.
That is interesting, yeah.
That's actually weird because,
absolutely.
I mean, like I'm nowhere near blind. I just wear glasses. I don't even know what percentage I'm at or whatever. But whenever I used to smoke weed, which I haven't in a long time, I would notice sometimes that my vision got worse. That's kind of weird.
But I could see how there could be like a delay in like motor responses, which could be different than like actual vision.
Yeah.
Right. I think it depends. Like I say, in my case of RP, because this is probably more interesting than what I was saying. But the fact of the matter is, I used to find that my depth perception was enhanced because that was one of my problems. I also had an odd form of color blindness that would go away.
Really? From smoking marijuana?
Definition in general. But the fact of the matter is, I myself, one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up is the doctor at that time, this is, like I said, this is going back to very early on, like this is like 2012, And I said to him, because I went in high to go to the eye doctor. And the funny thing, the girl held up her fingers in a peace sign, and she said, you can see that? At the distance it was. And I says, yeah. Well, that's how it came out that she was high. And I remember talking to the doctor, and he said his answer is, the reason why is because inside, and I think this will make a lot of sense to Brother Riley, I know how to see, even though, that's why the weed works. Because inside you already know how to see. So when you smoke weed, you actually see, because it alters your perception. And see, me, I do want to see again. I think, and I'll tell you what, Brother Riley, do not think it'd be like, because I can sit here, and I use one finger or a thumb with talkback, but I still hold the phone in the pit of my right palm like I always used to. And I still feel like I want to use those 4 fingers. Because to me, it would be like nothing. The same transition I went in would be the same transition out. I mean, and
it seems like you guys do have different, like you've had different experiences.
Yeah,
though.
we have.
Maybe it's not the same. Well, one thing I know about Riley is just that, like, you can't even like consider Riley disabled because he does so many things so much better than most people. Like, how many people are even good at editing things online?
Yeah.
And just today, our good friend, I won't even say who, was here talking to me, and he said that he was like, oh, we were very happy to hear that Riley is moving in next door because when he stayed with us and just like for a visit, he was just like as good as somebody could be staying in your RV. And we were saying like no one has any excuse to be dirty because Riley like is so clean, you know, and gets around fine.
So have you guys ever heard of the superhero Daredevil? It's a Marvel superhero.
I've heard of Daredevil.
Yeah.
So Daredevil's thing is he's blind, right? He I think it doesn't matter how he got blind, but he's blind, and that's kind of like his superpower. There's more to it. It's not just that being blind is his superpower, but he uses like his low sight to his advantage, and well, he was trained. So he was trained by whatever karate type master, and basically, I think the guy that trained him is blind as well. So basically, he learned how to use his other senses and how like sometimes your sight actually deceives you. So almost like in a way how like your sight can almost be not like a disability, but like kind of it can trick you and it can go against you. And actually like, so that was a huge part of his training, was to kind of mold his blindness into a superpower almost. It's like interesting.
It makes me wonder if it's like partially why Riley is so intelligent spiritually and emotionally, because so many people are so materialistic, and it could have something to do with like only what I see is real.
Yeah.
Because people say that all the time, right? Oh, right. If I like, you need to see it to believe it or something like that.
I don't know if I'm intelligent spiritually or emotionally, but thanks for the compliment.
You're welcome. I feel like you are.
Thanks.
But either way, thank you for the call, Ricky from the Commonwealth. I just felt like there wasn't really like Riley didn't know. I mean, it wasn't the same situation, so Riley couldn't really like.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to talk to somebody else who's blind, but at the same time, we don't have entirely shared experiences, which is fine.
Yeah. So one thing we were talking about before the calls, it was nice to get so many calls all at once.
Oh, yeah.
Was just that don't get a Tesla and live somewhere cold.
Yeah.
Because apparently it can freeze and you'll be sitting there for 5 hours trying to charge your car. I mean, I can't imagine being stranded like that.
Yeah, and it was interesting. So one of the pictures I saw of the Teslas, it seemed like they were in some random parking lot. And that was another thing I hadn't really thought of is, do people just park their Teslas and like, do you just go to I would think that if you owned a car, not a hybrid, like a Tesla or another like purely electric vehicle, that you would have some sort of charging station at your house. But all of these cars seemed to be like abandoned in almost like a mall parking lot.
Dang. I mean, like maybe they could do it there, but also could do it at their house, but it died there? I don't know.
Yeah, but there was a lot like all in the same location. It was just kind of strange to me. I don't know.
Too much for that logistics. It's been Free Talk Live. Thank you for listening. You can go to freetalklive.com, and social.freetalklive is back up, by the way. That's social.freetalklive.com and freetalklive.com. Peace.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations